Destination couldn't be started. Which one? That's okay. I'm all right if Twitter won't work. You guys still here? Let's try this again. You should be back. Yeah, yeah. You guys are on the way. So when you guys get back and you want to ask a question again, I'll do my best to answer it again. It was about Trump. It wasn't really about Trump. It was about the newest war, Iran. Somebody asked me what I thought about Iran. I'm waiting till I can pull the comments up so I can. There you guys go. There you guys go. Oh my God, you died. I almost did. Okay. So, Iran. First of all, we have no quarrel with Iran as far as Americans go. I know people are saying, like, they say death to America, but they're saying death to America for a very specific reason. And so, when we were growing up and somebody got shot up a bunch of times, this isn't the right instinct, but our instinct was always, man, I wonder what that guy did. Or like there's a phrase like, oh man, he must have got somebody really angry, whatever he did. Like where we're from, we always understood that violence doesn't occur in a vacuum. Like it's action reaction, right? And so it's like if the Iranians are saying death to America, why? And it's kind of like what happened in 9/11 where they're like, why do they hate us? And so they hate us for our freedom. You know what I'm saying? And obviously when I was a kid, I believed that. Of course, I mean, I can't let myself off the hook. I was 18 years old. I should have had more deductive reasoning skills by that point. But thankfully, this generation of 18-year-olds ain't. And they're like, nope, I'm not fighting in your war. I'm not doing none of that. So kudos to Gen Z. Seriously, you guys. If we have any hope as a country, it's going to be those guys push us over the finish line. Um, but as an American, I don't have any quarrel with Iranians. And if you look at what's been going on, for the last, I don't know, we killed Qasem Soleimani. They did nothing. We attacked them last year in their facilities or whatnot. They did nothing. That tells me that those people don't want a conflict with us. If we can go in there and kill one of your most important guys in your government, like logistically, psychologically, one of the most important guys in your government, and you don't do anything, that means you're afraid. That's what that means, right? And so, they didn't want a conflict with us. There's no conflict with us whatsoever. They don't want one. They're like every other country on the planet, and they don't want a war with America. But there is a country that wants war with Iran. And when I saw our president get up there and talk about the bombing in Beirut as justification, that should happen before we were born. Like all the dudes that are serving now, just like 95% of the dudes that are over there right now were not even born when the justification for this action was delivered, according to Mr. Trump. Marco Rubio comes on and says, hey, what did he say? He said the Israelis were going in, and then if the Israelis went in, that the Iranians would have attacked us, and so we preemptively attacked them. So I don't really know how that follows, because if the Israelis attack them, wouldn't they attack the Israelis? What does that have to do with America? So no, they're going to attack us too. They're going to attack us too? Well, when we killed Soleimani, did they attack us? When we bombed all their nuclear facilities, what are you talking about? Furthermore, I was told that Trump said it was a very successful, gun run there last year when we attacked them. So if it was so successful, then why did we need to strike them? That doesn't make any sense. What do you need help with, Asdell? Staring away from the infamous files, the world seems to be in the endgame. Yeah, man. You know, those files, were heartbreak. I went to my, and I said, tell me how to look at this thing or interpret it, interpret it properly, right? And so he said basically anything where somebody gives a sworn testimony to where they could lose their freedom, right, for lying, for being proven wrong, and that's the stuff you want to camp out on. So that was very helpful information. What's up, Alex? But yeah, I think we're in trouble. I don't. I do believe that there are organizations that have videos of Mr. Trump in an extremely compromising situation. I do believe that, and I do believe that that is the reason that we're engaging in this ridiculous, criminal, and honestly tragic war. I just think it's horrible for the Iranian people. On the other hand, I know that from our perceptions as Americans, they've been living under the boot. And so if a good thing happens for the wrong reason for them, then I'm happy for them. If it's genuinely going to help the Iranian people, like I'm happy about that. But I'm very, very skeptical that we're going to do anything really positive there, because I don't know if people know this or not, but Mr. Trump has also bragged about killing the proxies that we had in place. When you go and remove a leader, you want to have one right, right there. And they were so reckless and sloppy that they killed two of the proxies. And he talked about it. So now it's like those things, trust me, take years and years and millions of dollars to develop, especially if you're saying this guy's got to be the next leader. That guy's got to be fluent in English, and he's got to be someone that the Iranian people trust and believe is an Iranian first type person. That's a very, very difficult skill set. Like look at Hamid Karzai was the best we've ever had on that, and you saw how that turned out. So like you always want people to be in a better situation, obviously, as an American, if we can help. But at the same time, like I doubt very highly that things are going to go good for the Iranian people. I think that I don't know enough situation on the ground over there to say. When I saw Trump hesitate about releasing the files pre-election talking to Fox hosts, I knew he was guilty of something horrible. Yeah, I remember you kind of like alluding to that in a comment one day, and I was like, Tasco, that's when everybody was saying all the crazy stuff about Trump, and you guys know how I was. Like, I'm not I didn't believe in Russiagate. I'm an evidence type person, but when you look at those files, it's crazy, because it's like, the Pizzagate thing, and I still think Pizzagate is a crazy conspiracy theory. But when you read those files, you kind of get an understanding of where those people were coming from. And now it's like, I don't know. I mean, how crazy is it? You know what I'm saying? And at this point, I understand anarchy by the way that Sonia taught me about anarchy, which isn't like complete and total lawlessness. It's just the attempt to have a society without hierarchy is what it looked like to me. So I don't know what you call this that's about that the Iranians are about to get into, but their entire governmental class has been murdered, and the remaining folks in their government are in hiding. And I don't think people understand, like, we're not supposed to just be able to go into a country and in broad daylight just kill leaders of countries. Like, you can't do that. Like, this was part of the supposed post-World War II consensus. And, the Spaniards were like, yeah, we don't really want you guys using our bases to commit this illegal war. And Trump's like, we could just show up there anyway. What are they going to do? Like, okay, all right, if that's the way we want to do business, because we're America and nobody can tell us anything. So we're just going to do what we want to do. Now, look, I'm going to be honest with you guys. That is always America's doctrine. That's always been America's doctrine. But it is dangerous when a person feels really comfortable with saying that. That should concern us. It should concern us. But you want to keep the Overton window at a certain place. You want to make people, hesitant to violate international law and to violate the sovereignty of another country. What's up, Stout? To violate the sovereignty of another country or violate the sovereignty of a nation, I think is extremely, extremely dangerous. And I also think that what he did in Venezuela was wrong. But I think what happened to him and what happened in Venezuela, I think it gave him, that impetus towards hubris that basically says we can do this and nobody can do anything to us. And it's like, okay, nobody can do anything to us. Like, there's no country that's going to be able to, like, straight up face us one-on-one and beat us in a war. We understand that, but there's a million ways to skin a cat. We spent a bunch of money on Afghanistan and it didn't turn out the right way. Now, people say we lost. Well, whether you win or lose is based on what your objective was. And that's one of the biggest disconnects between the American public and the American government. You don't win or lose a war unless you achieve or don't achieve the objective, right? And so if the objective is to do X and you do X, then, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, as they say. Stout men in the house. America is great at destroying, but sucks at rebuilding, of course. And then once you rebuild, you can't maintain it because we don't have the will to stay in there. And the puppets that we usually set up are by definition weak. If you're the type of person that's gonna work on behalf of a foreign government and your government, you are by definition weak. And when you put a group like that up against a group of true believers, you saw what happened with ISIS. They walked right into Iraq, man. I had videos of 16-year-old kids dispatching entire units by themselves, and they just sat there and took it, man. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, the dynamics are pretty crazy. Like, if you cannot put a puppet up there against a true believer. The true believers are going to win every single time. The puppet just wants power and riches. He's going to fold as soon as he thinks his life is in actual danger. And so, like, we constantly have this situation over and over again where you take people out, put people in, take people out, put people in, Zelensky, in Ukraine. And so that was a mistake in the sense that because Putin perceived him to be weak, he went off and did what he did, So I just, it's mind-boggling to me. Tulsi Gabbard, Trump, I want to say JD Vance explicitly, so you guys can fact check me, explicitly stated that they didn't want war with Iran, that they hated the regime change wars and all the rest of it. And then they get up there and then Hegseth is like, it's not a regime change war, but the regime changed. Ha ha ha. I'm like, how is that funny? Like, that's exactly what it is. And then you're coming up to us and laughing about how you broke your word to the American people. Like, when was the last time you've seen the country this united? Nobody wants this shit. Like, on the ground, like your average American, people are walking around confused. Like, what the fuck did the Iranians do to us? My entire life, guys, I've been hearing about the Iranians. My entire life. And then I saw my first risk assessment. The Iranians were like number 85 on the fucking. The Iranians were nowhere to be found, dude. Like, it's insane. Um, you have no idea how good it is to see you again. Good, 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 good. Should the Allies not have violated the sovereignty of Germany? I'm trying to listen to what you're saying and like the Germans were invading Poland, right? They were articulating that they wanted to take over all of Europe at some point and have a their 1,000-year Reich, right? It was, yeah, we're going to get the things that were taken from us, but they weren't talking about stopping from there, right? And so that's not what's happening with Iran. The Iranians had no desire to expand and take over the Middle East. The Iranians hadn't articulated any of that stuff. The Iranians, however, were arming Hezbollah and the rest of them because we don't listen. If you give the Palestinians a state, right, then they can have a military, right? If you give the Palestinians a military, I will be fine with writing off Hamas and Hezbollah. But if you don't give a country statehood and you don't allow them to have a military, then the only people that will defend them are what you're going to call terrorists. So I don't play that game. So if the Iranians are funding Hezbollah and Hamas until the Palestinians get a state of their own, to me, I'm sorry, it's valid. And if you look at the way that the Israelis have been treating them, this is so crazy to me. Americans, like, we would never accept any sort of treatment like that. You know what I'm saying? So I understand what you're saying about going after the Germans. I feel like the Germans were more of a global threat than the Iranians. I don't view the Iranians as a global threat, and I don't view the Iranians as expansionist in the way that the Iranians are. And furthermore, there's a difference between rhetoric. Like, for example, Islam will dominate the world. Okay, that is what the religion believes. I'm a post-millennialist Christian. I believe that Christianity is going to dominate the world. That does not mean that I am for expansionist forced conversions, Americanism. I believe America is the greatest country in the world. That doesn't mean that I believe that every country, I believe that countries should adopt, democracy, for example. I think that's a good thing, like objectively good. And I think the world would be better if we had actual real democracy starting here. So I don't have a problem with that. But the Iranians have never articulated an expansionist ideology like what we saw with Nazi Germany. Furthermore, the Iranians don't have concentration camps where they're actively liquidating people and trying to wipe entire races of people off the face of the earth. The Iranians aren't doing that either. So I, I'm having a very, very difficult time with that analogy. It doesn't really follow to me just because of what I articulated earlier. If you read Guerrilla Warfare by Mao Zedong, it makes perfect sense for the Palestinians to have groups like Hamas or other groups. Yeah, it's just human nature. You know what I'm saying? Good. Parent stuff still going back and forth. I'm trying to like balance out, travel both sides, make sure it's good. Um, you need to separate the Iranians from the IRGC. Well, I'll do that. That's fine. But if I separate the Iranians from the IRGC, then there's no threat, right? So if it's just the aristocrats, then it's no threat. But the Iranians, I have no quarrel with them. They had no quarrel with me. We killed Soleimani. They did nothing. We bombed them. We unprovoked. We went out and bombed them. They did nothing. The Israelis have nuclear weapons. We all know that. So there's just no logical reason for us to attack Iran at all. There's a lot of logical reasons for the Israelis. It benefits the Israelis a lot, but it doesn't benefit America. And I don't believe that we're going to win this one either. But my prayer, honestly, is that, and listen very closely to what I'm saying. I am praying that if Mr. Trump won't repent, that God would remove him permanently from office so that he can't come back. But I said, God, we need God to intervene because this man is off, like literally, he's off the chain. And you guys know how I talk. You guys know how I talk about leaders. You know how I talk about leadership. I've never said anything like that about any of our leaders. I take what the Bible says very, very, very serious. Very serious when it says you must not speak evil of a ruler of your people. And what I'm saying is, I am not speaking evil of Mr. Trump, but I do think if in God's providence he removed this man from office permanently, I would not shed a tear. We're in trouble, and the world is in trouble. It wasn't unprovoked. Iran has supported terrorism throughout the world. I'm sorry, old school. I'm sorry, but nobody in the world can kill as many people as Americans can kill. And I've already talked about sponsoring terrorism. If you're calling Hezbollah and Hamas terrorists, I'm sorry. Give the Palestinians a state, let them have their own military. The minute you do that, then you can say the Iranians are supporting terrorism. Until you do that, I'm sorry, I can't rock with that. I can't rock with that. What I saw in Gaza is terrifying. When I saw that man a couple days ago pick up the arm of some 11-year-old girl that has been separated from her body, I can't accept that as an answer. Well, after this term, he can never serve again, but there are people around him, as well as recently Marjorie Taylor Greene, who said that he heard him talking about it in the Oval. I mean, you can disagree. You can disagree all you want, right? But there's things called facts. We killed Soleimani. They did nothing to us. We bombed their nuclear sites. Supposedly, we completely destroyed them. They did nothing to us. Why? Because they're scared to death of Americans. When we killed Soleimani, I know for a fact we were right down the street. They knew where we were. And I know people when they launched those. And by the way, I don't know if you're familiar with the channel, but when we killed Soleimani, everybody was talking about World War III. I said those Iranians aren't going to do a damn thing because I knew, because we, like I said, we were literally right down the street. So we killed Soleimani, and they did nothing. They shot that little thing up in the air. Okay, I had a guy that was there, could have easily intercepted it. They told him let it go, and he hits an empty bunker. We reported somebody got a concussion, and we moved on. We killed the head, basically, of SOCOM and their intelligence community at the same time when we killed Soleimani. They did nothing to us. That is true. We had one soldier that was supposedly had a concussion. Ridiculous. So everybody understands that we went after the Iranians at the behest of the Israelis. The Israelis have some sort of leverage over Mr. Trump. That's obvious. It's just clear. There's no reason to attack those people, no reason to go to war. It's completely antithetical to how he ran. It is antithetical to how Tulsi ran. And if Tulsi's saying now there's somehow justification when she was telling us the entire time that she wasn't, they need to get online and explain to us what the hell happened. But when our president got online, old school, when our president got online, he started talking about the attack in Beirut. Well, I wasn't even born then. And that kid, the 20-year-old kid that died, he wasn't even born then when that shit happened. As a Brit, I think the idea that Iran is a huge threat is a lie. Netanyahu has been saying since the mid-90s that they're months away from having nukes. Israel and the West will get destroyed. Yeah, exactly. That, you have to tip your hat to the Israeli intelligence apparatus. I don't like them. Nobody on our side likes them as far as intelligence communities go, but you have to respect them. They did a masterful job. Whatever they did to get leverage over Mr. Trump obviously has worked very well. And you have to tip your hat to them. And I think Americans on the right or the left, whoever, I think now, especially with the release of the Epstein files, here's a real solid fact. Old school Captain America integrity is important. When you have a guy that is morally compromised, I remember back in the day with Clinton, it was like, oh, he got a BJ in the office, but who cares? The economy's good. Shut the hell up. All right. But eventually, a low character guy at the head is going to make your operation vulnerable. And that, I'm sorry, but to me, that's all that's happening here. is that we have a guy who's compromised. We have people that are using leverage over him. And because of that, these decisions are being made. And so you can't, what's up, Luna? I'm not, look, when you see a lion in the jungle and he does a good stalk and he cuts off the wildebeest and you can admire it and you can say, wow, good job. So you have to give your respect to the Israeli apparatus there, because this thing is completely for them and not for us at all. So, good for them. I just hope for their sake that they understand that this is the last one you're getting for a long time. And I think that the more and more we hear names of dead Americans, the worse it's going to get. So good luck. It just doesn't seem to me that there's been a lot of forethought about the ramifications of what happens here. That's true. God intervened in Trump's attempted Butler, and so God can intervene with the removal of him sitting in office. That's correct, and that's the reason why you don't promote somebody needs to take him out. Blah, 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 blah. If you truly, truly believe there's a God in heaven, then you pray that way. If he was involved, he should face punishment as well. Oh, I agree. Everybody should. Nobody should be immune. But my point is, we didn't really look at, the narrative I was getting from the right wing was that this is horrible. The moral fabric of our countries, during the whole Clinton Monica Lewinsky scandal, this is horrible. The country, blah, 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 blah. But on the left, they were saying this is ridiculous. The economy is the best it's ever been. The Republicans are ridiculous. I don't care if he gets a BJ in the White House, right? Like, that was kind of the debate. And now it's interesting because it's switched, right? Where the Democrats and the leftists are saying, what the hell? They're the ones making the moral argument. And it's the right-wing Christian Republicans that are making the, hey, shut up, just worried about the economy argument. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how things have changed. And from a Christian view, it means that the Democrats have gotten better and the Republicans have gotten worse. I don't know what to tell you. So we as Christians are definitely not the moral conscience of the country. We're obviously not the moral conscience of the country anymore. This man Trump has I don't want to say he has destroyed, but he degrades everybody around him. Is like the values and the beliefs and the convictions that people have, you have to sacrifice if you're gonna rock with Trump. But he's so gregarious when you get into his orbit. It's very, very difficult to combat. And Tulsi Gabbard. I admired the hell out of Tulsi Gabbard. I loved. I thought she was. I admired her Kamala takedown and all that. I thought she went up against Hillary, and now she's with them. She's with them. The last thing she said was something about Obama and Russia or something like that. Russiagate, something like that. Something happened in 2016. I don't care. I don't care. I think Russiagate was BS. I think it was horrible. I think it was dumb. I think it wasted a lot of time and money. But it's 2028, 26. And the Epstein files are here. Like, and you're the DIA. Like, what are you doing? So it's really crazy that the man, like, everybody around him becomes the worst version of themselves. And they can't, how does Tulsi look at herself in the mirror anymore? It wasn't like, she's Steve Bannon and all the rest of it. Right. Yeah. But Vin, you're forgetting the Dow. Correct. Dow Jones. Yeah. I feel like God's looking at his watch, like, well, let me start getting ready to head out of here. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty, that's pretty much the energy. I think that's happening right now with God. Like, you know, I think that the if we have the midterms, I got to tell you guys, like, and if River's still here, they can testify for me. Like, I'm not, I was never one of these Trump is the devil. Hey, what's up? Our boss, don't you dare leave, bitch. Nah, I'm still here. Is that you? Is you the one that texted me about that thing? Or is somebody else? Um, yeah. It's just a crazy world we're living in right now. I just saw Nick Fuentes video. He's like, all the Goyim need to come together. He's like, if you're black, if you're white, it doesn't matter. All non-Jews need to come together. I'm like, oh my God. Somebody had retweeted it. They're like, oh man, maybe he's changing, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're not seriously talking about joining hands with Nick Fuentes to overcome evil. It's like over joining. We're gonna join up with Nick Fuentes to overcome global Jewry, is what he said. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Hey, I'm glad. I gotta text you. I'll text you later. I am alive. I made it, so it's all good. Meanwhile, the economy ain't doing it all that good for the average American. I'm in insurance now, and people are canceling health insurance and mass older folks at that. It's oh Jesus, that's the thing that gets me, man. Is that not only are we in an unjust war, in my view, but you got people right here, bro, right here, sis, right here that could really use some of that money, man. Doing all right, man. Doing all right. It's just, it's tough. It's tough, man. It's tough to see, you know? And it's so crazy to me that I remember where I was when we invaded Iraq. And it's hard for me as a parent to sit beside my kid while he now sees us invading another country, you know. I'm just glad that they didn't make they're not going to make the same decisions I made, you know. There are a lot of Jews who look, man, there have been Jews at the forefront calling this shit out, not since October 3rd, since back. And that's why I'm saying about Nick Fuentes. It's like, what do we mean we're going to have this Gentile coalition? It shouldn't be that. It should be anybody that believes that human life is precious and sacred and is more valuable than power and profit. I'm going to join hands with anybody who believes that. You cannot have a world coming together going after 15 million fucking people. There's 15 million Jews in the world. So this sort of like global, all the Goyim need to come together, to me, is almost, it's almost a nod to Jewish supremacy. Like when Kevin Durant jumped on the Golden State Warriors, I said, oh, bro doesn't believe he can win without an insanely stacked team to beat LeBron. So if all the whole world has to come together to stop 15 million Jews, man, them Jews must be really like, they must be super fucking human. Nah, I think we can say anybody who's a fellow lover of humanity, who believes in justice and equality at some level, or doesn't believe we should kill little girls who are trying to get an education. It'd be great if all of us came together. Like I want to come together against the devil. I don't want to come together again. I don't want to be part of anything that's against any group of people. I don't want to be part of that at all. So I want to be for. I want to be known for what I'm for. How are you doing, Vin? It's been a long time. It's okay. It's okay. Um, so yeah, I don't think we need to do that. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of this gets ameliorated if we just decouple ourselves from the Israelis, because the minute that we do that, the Israelis are going to have to play nice with the people around them, because they're not going to be able to just be able to assume that we're going to go help them. So I think that's going to augment their behavior in a way that makes it so that they can function as equals with the people around them. So we don't need like a giant coalition of people angled against 15 million people in the world. We don't need to do that. Is the chat open to ask anything or just Tran? You can ask anything, man. Anything you want. Tran. Iran. Sorry, not Tran. Iran. Problem is, homie, at this point in time, popular opinion is Israel is the devil. I understand that. I understand that. And I understand why people think that way. People are mad. I definitely think the Israelis are going to have to make some changes in the way that they engage the world because it's been pretty horrible. Their PR, I've been looking at. I've been kind of busy, but their PR stuff is pretty terrible. Like, what the hell are you doing? We need to make APAC irrelevant. Well, actually, maybe we make APAC super relevant in 20 in the midterms, right? And you say you lost because you support APAC. You know, it's got to be a line of demarcation, right? It's like APAC or no. If you say yes, okay, you're with the period. You're with the odds. That's it. So there's things that we can do that will restore American sovereignty without us completely descending into anti-Semitism. And I do think that anti-Semitism is a real thing. And I think that while it's true that it has been used as a firewall for criticism, that is true. They've abused and used and abused the term to great effect. And I think what's happening now is people are having a hard time discerning the difference between genuine, fair criticism of Israel and anti-Semitism. And I think that's why it's very important that you have people with Jewish background in your life, not to police you, but to say, hey, because I got Jewish people in my life that I trust, and in the middle of this shit, it gets emotional, and I forgot what I said, but he said, "Yo, you said this." I said, "I didn't say that." He said, "Nah, bro, you said it." I went back and looked. I go back and shoot a video immediately and be like, "Yo, I said that. My bad. Blah blah blah. I was emotional. Blah blah blah." But you know what? I'm not gonna say who he is, but he didn't go crazy. He didn't call me this. He didn't call me a name. Da da da. He understood. I'm in an emotional moment. I'm seeing people dead. Everybody knows how I am. So he's like, "Yo, boom." And I looked at it. I repented immediately. You know what I'm saying? So you got to have people like that, because the line between anti-Semitism and um, anti-Zionism is very very blurry. And I also think that there are bad actors, genuine anti-Semites, genuine Nazis who are taking advantage of that and writing that. And so they've been able to hide in plain sight right alongside other people, which is why the Nick Fuentes thing is concerning, because it's like, this dude hasn't changed who he is. He hasn't moved who he is. So if you're closer to Fuentes, it's because you got closer to him, not because he got closer to you. So that's also a concern I'm very, very worried about. 99% of that Bernie Sanders is a sellout, sheepdogging people into the Democratic Party. Stuff I heard from purity testing folks, and I left the left grifters was super anti-Semitic. Yeah, you know, it's a thing. It's there. It's real. Um, so it's a difficult situation to be in, man. And I also like understand right now the seething anger of people, because it's so blatantly about Israel that it's just it's very hard. And the only conclusion I can come to is that they've got something on them. You look at Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is usually pretty erudite, pretty articulate. Even he let it slip that the Israelis are the reason that we went into war. So it's like, you guys, that's the other thing that scared me. Is like I feel like they don't have a plan. Like I said, two of their proxies, the people that were supposed to take over after he killed two of the proxies. Like, I don't think people realize how insane that is that happened. Those things cost years and years and years and millions of dollars. And when I say it costs years, that's how those organizations think about cost. They don't think about money as cost. They think about time as cost. It's a completely different mindset. So to kill those guys, no joke, killing both of those dudes represents about, I don't know, between the two of them, probably about 35 years of work. Honestly, between those two, it's extremely arduous to and he killed them and then he bragged about it. I'm not like that. Again, it concerns me. You're supposed to be ashamed of something like that. You're supposed to say, shit, that's not something you're supposed to brag about. But he was like, I mean, the bombs are just so powerful. We killed the proxies too. I'm like, oh, okay. If they had something on Trump, they must have something on Biden the way he supported them endlessly. I don't know, Stout. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but obviously Biden wasn't there, you know? So whoever was calling the plays, you know, the Cuban people are free. They're just under endless embargoes because they chose a form of government we didn't like. Correct. 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 And then, when you had a guy like Castro, how much of the choice was really their choice? And yet they're getting completely punished to send the message to the rest of the world. I'd like some trivia. When did the Iranian American beef start? What started our beef? I'm convinced the Israelis wanted to make sure we didn't have proxies. I don't think they want an Iranian government to exist outside of a theoretical one. Obviously, the Iranians being entrenched in a bloody civil war for power is better for the Israelis. Man, it's a cold world out there, guy. It's a cold world out there, dude. Like, oh man. Woo, we're ruthless. Yeah. I'm shooting one tomorrow. I would have shot. I would have shot it today. I just got back though. So God bless you too. Just got back today. So yeah. You'll be up. You'll be seeing them soon. I mean, Biden wasn't in the files the way Trump was. Not entirely sure. I mean, Biden had the Biden laptop situation that had some pretty weirdo stuff in it. I don't think that Biden, like I said, I just don't think Biden was there. So whoever was running the government for those 4 years was obviously a Zionist. But I just didn't really look at Biden as a factor, and maybe that's just illogical on my part. I just looked at his condition and was like, okay, he was never running the country in the first place. Oh, what's this? The Shah was going to nationalize oil in the nation in the 70s, and we did not like that, so we overthrew him, and the Ayatollah came in. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. The nerve of those Iranians not cutting a deal with us with the oil like the Saudis. And then the nerve of those Iranians, because if the Iranians lock up with the Indians and the Chinese and the Russians, we can create we can kind of disrupt American hegemony, and we could really, you know, cause them some serious problems down the road. And that's another reason that we're over there. Like we blew up Nord Stream 2. Like we're doing things as a nation to make sure that we remain the only superpower in the world. And I just think if Trump would come out and say, this is why I'm doing this, so we can remain the only superpower in the world. So like we want to fuck up Iran because then, you know, the BRICS motivations of the Russians and the Chinese will be stultified. Okay, fine. But that's not what you're doing. You came out and told us about Beirut. People blame the Jews, but I see no shortage of Zionist Christians. Later, Jay. Good to see you, baby. I'm gonna be here today, later on, doing the music thing like back in the day. I'm gonna be on for a long time. Long time. Get your rest though. Less than half of all the files have been released yet. Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Like half the files aren't really released, really. You know what I'm saying? It's just a lot of craziness. I can't believe that Trump still has supporters after the file came out. Like, if you're a Trump supporter, like, no disrespect to you, I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't understand how anybody could still be like pro this guy after all this came out. Birth sold missiles to the Ayatollah on behalf of Reagan. Now he works for the NRA, and I mean, yeah, guys, it's crazy. But Ian, did you get your question? Did you get to ask your question? Because you asked me about like you said if you could only ask questions about Iran, and then I didn't see the rest of your questions. I don't know if you left or whatever, but yeah, you guys can talk to me about anything, not just Iran. Although I'm not against talking about Iran either. But yeah, the Zionist Christians. I actually, as far as America goes, I put the blame squarely on Zionist Christians for sure, for sure. I remember your first video reacting to Epstein killing himself back in 2019. Yeah, yeah, man, that was crazy. Such a long time ago. There's only been one person I've ever heard be honest and say there has to be one superpower in the world. I just think it should be America. Yeah, that's true, XBM. Did you watch the Tucker Carlson interview with Huckabee? Yes, I did watch that interview. And when he said, I think it'll be fine if they take it all, I was blown away. I was blown away. And I was like, if this was any other country, he'd be recalled immediately and we'd have a press conference. But it's crazy. By the way, your recent debate video on Isaiah was a masterclass performance. Yeah, I have a couple of debates and I didn't I didn't publish them for a couple of reasons. One is I was in a like a Facebook group and it was a big debate Facebook group and you know that's where he came from. And it got to be I don't know. It got to be kind of like WWE, you know. Um and you guys know how I am, you know, the charisma and everything. I kind of like pulled away from it. I kind of pulled away from the whole debate world and things like that and I hid that debate. It's very hard when you're trying to do something for God, but the context of a debate is just inherently competitive and the guys the personality type that is would engage in those kinds of interactions. We're all perceptively anyway, you know, arrogant, narcissistic, bullheaded, always think you're right, blah 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 blah. And so like it's that kind of mix of personality that creates a good debater. But at the same time, it comes in a lot of you experience a lot of cognitive dissonance as a Christian. You know, yeah, people like celebrating you for making somebody look stupid, for example, right? So like they're celebrating you and they're like, oh, they're celebrating your gift. And at the same time, it's like, you made that guy look so dumb. He was so embarrassed. Like that kid, you know, after that debate, somebody went off and made a video about it, like reviewing it, and just spent the entire time slamming the guy. And he never talked again. So it's like, okay, like what did we accomplish? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I don't publish those. Um, but I might. I was surprised. People were texting me like, yo, I never saw that one before, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know people were really interested in it. You actually sent me that debate video unlisted in 2023. It was pretty cool. I forgot everything that was said. Oh, man. Uh, what did you cry about? What did you cry about, Larry? Something happened? What do you really think happened with... What do you really think happened to Charlie Kirk? Type 22 if you want to hear what I really think happened with Charlie Kirk. Type 22 for that. I'm curious, Vin, if it's possible that there was a fall prior to Eden. Death obviously had already existed at their time, yet death seems to be punishment for their sins where Adam and Eve protected. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Here's what I'll say. I think the assumption is because death hadn't entered into the world yet, when God said, in the day you eat of it, you'll surely die, they had no reference point for it. So how could they know what it meant? Right. And for me, that's not as compelling because I don't think that death is very difficult to explain. If Eve were to say, what is death? And God said, you know how when you wake up, you go to sleep and then you wake up and you go look at stuff and then you get tired and you wake up again. Death means that you get tired, you go to sleep and you never get up again. Like, I think from that perspective, they could figure it out. Secondly, I don't believe that any of us knows what death is. Right? We know what the effect of death is. This person's not going to be here anymore. But actually, what happens when you die, and what's happening in the last 2 minutes, and what happens the first moment when your physical body, we don't know what that is. We have ideas, we have placeholders, but we don't know. So I don't think, for example, that Adam and Eve had no knowledge prior to eating from the knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I don't think that they were complete blank slates who didn't know anything. I think that they were made already with the hardware to have a base understanding of knowledge. That's kind of my, like, for example, like I think that they were born um literate in the sense that they could speak in full sentences. God could talk to them. Like, I don't think God had to teach them a language, right? Like, it was already there in the hardware is what I think. So if that's the case, then what other things were already there in the package prior to it being opened is kind of the way I look at it. All right, it looks like people want to know what I really think happened to Charlie Kirk. Hey, Prestonian, good to see you. Yes, wear your Sorry Secret shirt tomorrow and send me a picture. Send me a picture. All right. All right, guy. Okay, people want me to talk about Charlie Kirk. Donald Trump broke his promise to Charlie Kirk. I'm watching you in my country, New Zealand. Gang, gang, gang. You have a great leader in President Trump. Be proud of him. I'm not very proud of him right now. We just killed 160 Iranian schoolgirls. I'm not proud of that. And I'm not saying he did. I'm saying we did because we paid tax dollars and sent it over there. I think some weirdo kid fell in love with a trans person and thought he could win them over by doing what he did, and that freaked out the trans person, and they let the cops know and still got blamed. We're talking about Charlie Kirk now. What do I think happened to Charlie Kirk? I do not believe that that letter where the kid like admits it, like I left my 30/30 here and this and that and my old man and all this. Like that looks to me like something that an older person would write that they would assume. But I mean, I put it in. I as soon as it came out, I ran it through because I got 4 AI systems that I use on a regular basis, and I put that quote through all my AI platforms and asked them, tell me the age range of the person that would write something like this, and they all came out with like 45, 48, something like that. Um, it's possible that that kid could be, just that's how he speaks. That's possible. I don't believe the initial story. I, um, I just don't. It doesn't make sense to me. The fact of the matter is, there were 2 decoys there, and so that's more than just the first 90 seconds after a sniper round is released or any sort of round is released. If you're doing persec, you're doing personal security. The first 90 seconds are what's most important. First thing you do is you secure the principal, and the other guys are supposed to go out and start scanning for people who are running in opposite directions from the rest of the crowd, things of that nature. And then you have your drone stuff. I don't know why they didn't have drones. That's the other thing to me is it's crazy. A drone is cheap as hell, and you just like I don't understand why, security wise he didn't have one of those things. Um, so 2 decoys, if you understand within that 90-second window, 2 decoys is significant. And people talked a lot about the decoys initially, but then that kind of fell out of the consciousness. But to me, once you had 2 dudes saying I did it, one of those guys was like happened to be at everybody at another crisis point somewhere else. I don't know about that. So my point is, I do not believe the current narrative. I'll say the probability of the current narrative as currently constructed with Kash Patel at the helm. I'm sorry, it's zero. Kash Patel is the same person that told us that there is nothing in the Epstein files worth of note. Right? That's the same guy. Where else are you streaming? YouTube is blopping the majority of my comments. Uh, what? I did not know that. I'll have to fact check that. Second decoy at Charlie Kirk shooting work for Peter Thiel's Heritage Fund. I have to. I don't know. So I don't believe the official story. One of the things that's really interesting to me, I got people who are fans of Candace, and I'm like, okay, of all the conspiracy theories in the world, why hasn't Candace floated around the fact that literally the day that Charlie Kirk was murdered, there was a vote about the Epstein files that the Republicans basically it went right down the party line to continue to suppress them. That also happened the day that Charlie Kirk was shot. And I wonder, why is it that Candace has never talked about that, considering the way she connects dots that aren't there for things? There was literally a vote that day about the Epstein files. So I don't know. I don't know. Like Charlie was obviously changing on Israel, but I also think that I don't think Charlie would have walked in the party line if the Epstein shit came out about Trump. He was already starting to turn on the Israelis, and the first time they went after Iran, he like called Trump directly and said, "Don't do it, don't do it," because he heard his people. I mean, he had presidential aspirations. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever get the actual truth on that one. But that one hurt. I'm not gonna lie to you. That one hurt. That one hurt me for sure. I'm deep down the rabbit hole. Yeah. What's your thoughts? There's definitely some weird stuff going on with Trump's FBI. I feel like they could end up screwing the pooch on this one. Well, Stout, I mean, that's without question. Without question. You know, when you got a guy that's like, hey, I need a couple more states, like he's ordering a cheeseburger or something, like we're in trouble. That's not good. That's not good. Yeah, life should be an inalienable right for all, including the people you don't like. Hey, Black Queen! What's the motive to kill him? Well, if you were Trump, the motive to kill him would be you get a really good distraction from this Epstein files thing. I don't know. I mean, it's a stretch. I mean, there are. What do you think? What do you think? What's up? What's up? What's up? Yeah, you said you're deep in the rabbit hole. What are you thinking? Yeah, I don't think Epstein killed himself, and I don't think that this kid killed Charlie. He definitely didn't do it by himself. If he did do it, I think the lack of follow up on the decoy is very curious to me. If I if I was on that pursuit, that would be something I would push down to zero. I would have to know what the hell is going on there. How did that happen? I haven't clocked it, but I'm pretty certain it was well within the window. Principal's right there, so you've already got him secured. So that and the fact that there were two of them, that to me, and they worked so well that they announced to the public that they got. I don't know if you guys remember this at the beginning, but they're like, we've got some persons of interest, blah 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 blah. It was just the decoys, you know. But there was never any follow up about those boys, you know, and I think that that's important. I was sick when the audio of Kirk's wife bragging about the money they made days after he died. Yeah. Hey, Hector. Good to see you. I have a very, very okay. The stuff that she was doing with that girl, Erica Kirk, that was just straight up grooming. Like, period. Period. She groomed that girl. I don't care. And that's horrible. But the idea that she participated in any way in the murder of her husband, I just can't go. I would need incredible evidence to see that. If I saw her in some back off, if you sent me a video of her in some back, I would say that's AI. Like, I'm almost like impossible to convince that she would do that. And that's naive of me. I understand that. Like, when you look at history, I got a really hard time with that. And that's why, like, I was listening to Candace for a while, a little bit, because you guys know me, I'll listen to everything. But to me, as a person who's lost so many people, like, I lost somebody very, very important to me, but I had I had something that I had to do, and it had to get done. So I did it, and nobody knew the difference. You know, somebody could look at me like, "Oh, he never really loved that person. Look, he's going around." You know, like, how people handle that shit, that's between them and God to some degree, man. Like, I understand, but they're like, "Oh, she's talking about all the money." Well, maybe she's like, "Yo, I'll just throw myself into the business and forget about him." There's so many things that people do to get away from grief. You know, I'll choose the most dangerous assignment. I'll get really dangerous assignment. If I die, hey, and it's like, you just hurt. You're not. You don't have a death wish. You just hurt, and you're handling your grief in all these different ways. So people are projecting how they would react if their significant other died. But I mean, You still don't know. Like, I don't know how I'd react if I was her, you know? I mean, think about it. Half the country is celebrating the death of the brutal murder of your husband. People are celebrating it. People are debating whether or not they should celebrate it. And then on the other side, you got people making him a saint or a divine being, and you know that he was just a regular human with flaws, just like everybody else. Like, there's so many layers of complexity to this whole the proximity to Trump and all that craziness. There just so many insane, unique factors to her life that for people to look at her and be like, yo, I wouldn't do this. Normal women don't do this. Well, yeah, this is what grief looks like. Yeah, you don't have a husband who's been murdered in front of millions of people who are celebrating it. So I have a very, very wide berth to, I give a very wide berth to Miss Erica Kirk. You know, I'm afraid to say that her grief isn't real or valid because she's not grieving in the way that people think she should. Uh, you guys have never seen me in an ungrieved situation. I got Rolodexes of people that are gone, man. Gone. So she's got kids. She's got, she jumped into the business. I think a lot of times when people have, you see this all the time with dudes, like something bad happens, you know, and dudes don't come back. And then you see guys and they have to be on every op after that. You know, they're chasing something, or, chasing a dragon, chasing a death, chasing whatever. Maybe if I kill this next guy, I want my get back, blah, blah, blah. So you got certain cultures where, okay, we're going to handle grief by killing folk. We're going to just kill more people, And so it's like, how, I don't want to stand in front of Jesus, bro, and have him be like, your little sister had nothing to do with that shit, right? And you went and told millions of people that she killed her husband when she was in the most severe pain in her life. I don't want to have that conversation. Not because he's going to send me to hell. Just I don't want to have that conversation. I don't want to hurt him like that. So, because God loves Erica Kirk. Jesus died for Erica Kirk, no matter how whatever people think she is. So I don't want to. I don't want to do that. TPU appears to have committed multi-million dollars in fraud, and Charlie was about to uncover it. His neck did not stop a 30-06. That looked like an exit wound to me. Decoys in the Epstein files. What do you mean by decoys in the Epstein files? What do you mean by that? Erica Kirk was a Miss America pageant queen and met both Trump and Epstein on the circuit. I mean, that that kind of checks out. Like I don't know if it's accurate, but I know that she was like Miss Arizona where she competed in that thing. I know that, and yeah, that's kind of the world Trump lived in because you have a steady stream of young women, you know, just in the flowers of puberty. It looks like that's his favorite age range there, and he bragged about it. He bragged about going into these girls' dressing room and shit. So like, yeah, I mean, she might be connected for sure. And like I said, I called her a groomer, so I'm not saying that like she's like innocent as a driven snow, but that accusation is that's a pretty big one, man. Like she had something to do with her husband's death or something like that. That was a big one. In the Epstein files, they talk about colors of the day for special ops, and the only days the colors redacted are the day that Charlie was killed. Show me that. Tasco, send me an email. That's not good. Did you see the video of the Marine whose arm? Yeah. They snapped the dude's arm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, guys, like with the anti-Semitism stuff, that anti-Semitism is real. Because when you see pictures like that of this guy, his arm is snapped. And I got to tell you, when I saw that kid and he was 20 years old, that I got a 20-year-old son, man. Like that killed me, dude. For what? And it can really, really get you enraged because it's clearly about Israel. But you got to hold the line. You got to make sure that you understand that we're dealing with horrible, horrible leaders of countries, not the countries themselves. But yeah, it's tough to watch. It's tough to absorb. It's tough to absorb. It's tough to see this happening to, and you guys know me, how I feel about our country, especially our military. As it's very difficult for me to see that happen to somebody at the hands of lesser men. You know, it's tough to see. I ain't like talking about it. You got dudes that are willing to go through hell just for the opportunity to be called a Marine to defend this country. Feel how you want to feel about our conflicts, man. But you got somebody who was willing to die and worse, kill for people in this country to maintain our way of life. And he gets treated like that by lesser people. I have a hierarchical structure. We're not all the same. The people who work in hospitals, the people who take jobs specifically that can only harm them to benefit other people, firefighters, yep, police. It's a thankless job, man. But them people, first responders, I'm telling you, it's a thankless job. My little brother got first responder of the year one year, but the shit that he saw ended up killing him, man. So we're not all the same. So when there are people in our country that are going to devote their life to the service and protection of us, and they get treated like that by some senator. This is what I said. I have a hierarchy in society, and politicians are at the bottom. YouTube stars are like second to last from the bottom. But I struggle. I struggle with that. I struggle with that. I have a hard time. I have a hard time with that. That's why I told you years ago that despite recruiters wanting me to become an officer, I turned it down. I don't want to die for these reasons. Yeah, no. I mean, Ian, that boy's smart. You knew what was up from the beginning. You knew what was up since the beginning, bro. And that's why I said, like, I'm not like hopeless about the situation, because I look at the people coming up behind us, the Gen Z kids. They got it. They got it. We just got to follow their lead. We're okay. We're okay. I'm literally like Ian's generation. Like they're way more advanced than we were, and thankfully they have somebody who demonstrates the antithesis. Like Trump is so extremely bad that these people know like what they're looking at and what they need to avoid. And so I have a lot of hope for America. But right now, I was watching that Iranian thing where the guy was talking about the the kids, and he's holding up the kid's arm, and he's like, look at this, that type of thing. And I was just looking at it, and I was like, yo, I don't feel this at all. And I'm like, that's a girl's hand. It was attached to her like 20 minutes ago. And I it's just so much. You see so much with Gaza, and I kind of feel like I have to like look at it somehow to take part in the suffering. And it's easy for me to like look away while they're in the middle of it. I don't know. But I'm like, damn. Like, am I seeing too much of it to the point where I'm like, have I lost it? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about like People are like, why did they post Charlie Kirk's assassination? Like, couldn't they have, you know, why this, why that? And I do think that there is something to like being exposed to these extreme forms of realistic human violence has a sort of like desensitizing effect to where it's like, yeah, you know. Well, now that you're here with me, Ben, it's good to see you, baby. Ben Webb, one of my favorite human beings in the world. Yeah, yeah, that Marine was crazy. Like the way that he took that broken arm, like, but that's how they are. You know, my brother was a Marine. You know, my little bro, rest in peace. Fuck, man. Yeah, he was a Marine. Um, but yeah, man, why would there be Epstein files for September 10th, 2025? I don't know, man. That's why I told you 2 years at despite Ben, do you I would love to see a Ben Tasco hookup. Who's in Florida here? Is anybody in Florida? That's the Marines. Yeah, yeah. So much respect to the Marines, man. And the other thing is, you got to understand what it took for that guy to do that, because Marines aren't supposed to do that, government. But it's an extreme situation, man. It really, really is. Like our soldiers are now gonna get put in a situation where folks are really gonna have to decide whether or not to be conscientious objectors, man. Like it's crazy. What's up, Dan? Oh, Danny Trujillo. What's up, baby? I don't think Tasco could help me. I'd be right about everything. You met a dude. I mean, the fact that Trump was elected in the first place goes to show how a lot of boomers some learned from the Bush presidency. Yeah, I mean, at the same time, like the Democrats got to take some accountability. We had Kamala, which by the way, if we had Kamala, I'm not sure that the exact same thing doesn't happen. Um, and that's the other question that I have is who are we? We're definitely not voting Trump, right? Because we can't, because that would be a third term. Who are we looking at down the pike? Like that's a very like important question. Who are we actually looking at? Like nobody's talking about Gavin Newsom, right? We're not thinking about Gavin Newsom. Obama killed a lot of innocent people himself. Yeah, no. Obama's a war criminal, you know. You know, King had a dream, Obama had a drone. I'm not gonna romanticize homie. He also deported a whole bunch of people. hey, hey, Mr. Obama was a lot more efficient at deporting people than Mr. Trump is. That's for a fact. What's up, Ponche? Trump would like a third term. He's seemingly above the law, so I could see him going. Yeah, I'm, I am about 80% certain that we'll have a new president at the end of his term, but I don't know. Like this has just been like a year and a couple months, right? That all. I mean, a lot of stuff has happened. What's up, Vin? I never get to catch your live vids. Name Jimmy Carter. Wasn't Jimmy Carter not a war criminal? I thought Jimmy Carter was the man. If the Iran war doesn't end before the year closes, I'm not voting for Vance unless the left option is that much of a lead. I mean, God, Vance. See, I think JD Vance really hasn't changed from his initial assessment of Trump when he said that he was cultural heroin and all this stuff. I'm pretty familiar with the ideology of the guy who's discipling him, Douglas Wilson. He did this sermon series one time called the David Chronicles. It was really, really good. But when you listen to the David Chronicles, you could tell that this guy, he's brilliant, but he has a very, very brilliant political mind, and he doesn't have a problem with pretending to go along with something if it's for a greater good. So to me, JD Vance is believes that Trump is horrible, but that him being the vice president in a one-term guy could put him in a position where he has the authority to actually do the things that he thinks the country needs. So I don't think JD Vance agrees with most of the Trump. Like, for example, he went up there and he was like, oh, obviously the violent J6ers won't get pardoned. And Trump was like, hold my beer. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my take on him, is that he is cunning and he's plotting, and that's the reason why when the racist thing got found out, the guy sending text messages talking all types of crazy shit, he kind of like shrugged it off, and he's trying to like make sure he stays good with the Fuentes crowd because he knows he needs them. So Bibi and Zelensky are a good case study on how to never have an election again. Yeah, yeah. And Bibi was in some trouble right before October 7th. That's the other thing. Like, bro was in some serious trouble with the, Tasco. You could tell me more than anybody, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it is a group, a small, small group of these people that's fucking it up for a lot of us. Now, I will say, I have seen on the street interviews where they're interviewing people in Israel and they're like, fuck those people. And then the whole, like, right to rape protests, like, the optics are not good. The optics are not good. So, I don't know. Vance is also Peter Thiel's puppet. I agree with that. Where do I send my picture to? I'm sick because of my secret. Yeah, it's vinandstory@gmail.com. And I'll feature in the I'm gonna feature though in the video tomorrow when we start listening to music again. So don't be shy. Yeah, Israel. Yeah, yeah. Pretending they care about citizens now is ridiculous. Yeah. I don't believe any of the third term talk. It's pure publicity. If you ask me, it's always someone supposedly in a room with no mics or camera. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene said it, and I get it. You got to say what she says with a grain of salt, but she did pay the price. I mean, she lost her career for standing up to Trump. So, and she's like super popular now. Like if she ran again, she would murder everybody. Um, I don't know. I just think at this point, it's irresponsible to say that Trump won't do X or Y thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry, man. I mean, if you look at like, if I were to tell you like a month ago, hey man, in a couple weeks, Trump is gonna snatch up a world leader and then kill another world leader. We're just gonna go there and do it. People would be like, I don't know, he might. Like, I don't like what we've done in these last couple operations is insane. Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I think that could save us from a third term for Trump, aside from God taking him out, is he's just got to he's just got to get tired. I thought that this time, this presidency was about him going on his revenge tour, you know, but pretty much everything that anti-Trump people were concerned about in his first term, with the fascism and all the rest of it, none of that shit really materialized in his first administration until the very, very end with the January 6th stuff, which to this day, a lot of Trump apologists like act like that's not a big deal, which is so mind blowing to me. So from that perspective, yeah, Unrelated. Have you ever dealt with psychosis? If so, I'd like you to ask for some advice in DMs. Yeah. Funny you should ask. I'll check my DMs. Have you heard about the U.S. military higher-ups telling soldiers that this is a holy... Yes! Yes, Danny. They're pushing the fucking left behind. I just heard somebody else talk about destroying the fucking Al-Aqsa mosque so that you could build the temple there, which would be World War III. Okay, the Masjid Al-Aqsa is the third holiest site in Islam. Okay, you have Mecca. Everybody knows about Mecca. Then you have Medina. Okay, then right after that is Beit al-Maqdis, Al-Aqsa. Okay, and it's a very important site in Islam. Muhammad had a journey where he went up to heaven and received all these revelations and stuff. It's called Sirat al-Miraj, and he went from Arabia, and then he was basically like his essence got moved to the Al-Aqsa, building in Jerusalem. So he basically was supernaturally taken. I don't believe this happened. He was taken from Saudi Arabia instantly to the Al-Aqsa mosque, where Jesus and Moses and all the rest of them were praying, and then Muhammad was at the front of the line because he's the leader of all of them. After he got done praying, then he ascends to heaven and receives all these things from Allah. So my point is, the Al-Aqsa mosque is very, very important in Islamic, Sunni and Shia Islamic theology. So to destroy that place, you're already getting these Shia and Sunni people together. But if you destroyed that place, people will die in the millions. And you've got evangelicals now. There was a Jewish dude that was talking about accidentally shooting an RPG at the Al-Aqsa mosque and then destroying it. And, well, what are we going to build on top of it? So it's extremely, extremely dangerous. And these are conversations that we all used to have as Christians with this end time stuff. And people saw how dangerous it could be. And it's now coming true. And it's fucking terrifying. And so somebody where I was talking about anti-Semitism, and they were like, man, there's a lot of Christian, Zion, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so insane. Like, I was about to like do a Bible study to explain that the Bible really doesn't say this. Like, nobody in the Christian church believed in this nonsense until like 200 years ago. Nobody even heard of this shit till 2,000 years ago. I mean, till like 200 years ago. So it's like, yeah, it's difficult. Would Southeast Asians care about that mosque? Absolutely, they would. Absolutely, they would. I'm telling you, you do that, you're going to activate. People are going to die in the millions, man. You ain't going to have to worry about overpopulation again. I'm telling you. That Al-Aqsa mosque, man, I'm telling you. There is no building. Because here's the thing. In Medina, there are, hey, the prophet, lived here. His grave is here. Here's Abu Bakr's grave. Here's Umar's grave. Like it's basically like religious sightseeing. Medina is important because it was a city that took Muhammad in when the Meccans went after him. So Medina is extremely important. He loved those people. They adopted him and all the rest of it. He had a very, very close relationship with them. I'm pretty sure he died in Medina. So you go to Medina because that was Muhammad's city. But as far as like buildings, like sacred buildings, there's the Kaaba in Saudi, and there's Masjid Al-Aqsa, and that's in Jerusalem. That's and so like to destroy that, you would be destroying the third holiest site in Islam and the second holiest building in Islam. Okay. All right. That'd be the end of us, man. I'd also point out that J6 was so crazy. Mike Pence was a voice of reason. Correct. He's like, yes, I'm going to sign this, you weirdos. How about Marco Rubio? That's what it means to be a leftist. Being right before everyone else is chastised the whole time until you're proven correct. Well, I'm sorry, but the left-wing people were completely prescient. I didn't see the fascism, especially in in Trump one. Trump one would have probably been a good presidency if we didn't have to deal with the Russiagate bullshit and COVID. Um, which both of those I believe were manufactured. I don't care what anybody says. But the whatever the collective left wing zeitgeist picked up on with Trump, they did it, a couple years too early. Um, but they were objectively right, and we were wrong. He had 4 years, didn't do anything really crazy that any other president would do, but somehow, some way, people picked up on intuitively what this dude was capable of. And my training is you look at motivations and you look at results, and that's how you determine intent, right? Motivation and intent are not the same thing. So you look at motivation and results, and that's how you're supposed to determine intent, right? You guys, whatever, were operating from a completely different rubric. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was vibes. I don't know what it was. But I remember reaching out to one of my buddies. I'm like, we need to augment some of this shit because you can apply the principles as they say, we call them, and you're not going to get a predictability matrix that's going to get you what people like Ben or Stout or other people on the left were predicting when they were saying all the stuff about Trump. You're not going to get that from the typical matrix of the way that we were taught to ascertain those things and find targets, whatever. What's up, Nick? As a French citizen, I agree with you 100%. I appreciate that. Um, yeah. The first Trump presidency had a lot of cuts to public services that hurt impoverished people, but that's just right wing economy. That's just how they are. That's just what they do. He wasn't doing anything that's remotely close to this stuff, right? Where you have these jackbooted guys, these ICE officers shooting girls in the face, right? Like that. That's what I'm talking about. That we were warned of by the left and was mostly dismissed. And again, he hadn't done anything similar to that in the first 4 years. But that January 6th thing, especially considering it was his Supreme Court. I mean, he stacked the Supreme Court. And they were like, you're wrong. And of course, what's his face? The black guy, what's his name? Clarence Thomas went along with him, whatever, because he's corrupt as hell. But the stuff that's happening here is just crazy. We're shooting women in the face. We're shooting dudes who are no threat. We're celebrating it. You got this dude in ICE. He goes, he basically said, if you raise your voice, I will end your voice forever, or something like that. Like, and he's saying this while a camera is running. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you about the way this individual was trained and the mindset that he has, that he was given to say something like that to an American citizen? He's a white lady, this is not the one that they killed. It was another one. And he's like, if you don't stop talking, then hey, I'm going to end your talking. Wow. Really? This is what we on in America? Trump did that. You got to hold Trump responsible for that. He's at the head of the sphere. Back in the day when the cops would say reckless stuff to you, they would change their tune once you turned on the cameras. Believe me. I was part of a setup to try to get these dudes, jammed up. But as soon as the cameras are turned on, then everything would change. But these people, as soon as the camera's on, they're like, oh, it's time to perform. They're worse when the camera's on. So they're getting some sort of directive that they're above the law, and that as long as they're doing Trump's bidding, like he ain't gonna touch him. And the dude that shot Renee Good, like, he's fine. The dude that shot Pretty, he's fine. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. I gotta tell you, I've been doing a lot of research about how we got here, and I really believe a lot has been conservative efforts of conservative post-civil rights act to dumb down Americans. There were no new wars under Trump one. That was the hope for Trump too. I really thought that he was going to be able to close the deal on the Ukraine situation. I thought, okay, Putin's made his point. They're losing close to 1 million on both sides. And, don't throw out that number, guys. You hear that 1 million Ukrainians and Russians have died in this conflict? When I think about the people I've lost in my life and those bad phone calls, like to think that 1 million phone calls have happened over there between both sides for no fucking reason. Um, so there's that. Um, we just don't value human life, man. One of the things I found out is that the educational policies that things like No Child Left Behind, Common Core, focusing less on civics and history. No, that's true. That really is true. Like, my son talks about it all the time, because he's homeschooled. He's like, man, Dad, he's trying to be humble. He's like, they don't know shit. They don't know anything. Like, yeah, I know. And homeschool, you don't do homeschool all day, you 1 or 2 hours or whatever. And yeah, the kids are smart, so we already had but yeah, I don't know if it's on purpose or on accident, but it's terrible. Here's controller. I told you so. He did too. He did. I told you so, Project 2025, but I was called alarmist. Well, this is not even Project 2025, though. Like, I'd be happy if there was Project 2025. We'd have no abortions. This is not even Project 2025. He told us no more new wars. I'm going to end the war in Russia and Ukraine. I'm going to stop the Israelis from bullying the Gazans. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. He did say he was gonna stop the war. It's like he's not even doing the Project 2025 stuff. That's the thing. Um, unless destroying Iran was part of Project 2025, which it might be, controller. I'm not sure. It's a two-pronged attack. Make the impossible to fail children, then cutting fund until they learn nothing. I do think, though, what he said about civics is important because having a general understanding of knowing your rights, understanding your rights, having a general understanding of the reason that we have these laws in the first place, right? That's important. People are, oh, I have freedom of speech. Yeah, but why? And why is freedom of speech important? And why is it unique to America, et cetera, et cetera? What is the alternative? You can do things like that in homeschool because you have so much time, right? And you can have running discussions. And then you can say, all right, we're not going to do physics at all because there's going to be, not physics, civics, because there's going to be a debate tonight, right? So you're homeschooling, you just don't do civics in regular school time. You wait till the debate is, and then they're talking and going back and forth, and that's their civics class that day. So there's so many things you can do, but now you're putting 25 kids in a class. You got to, you know, basically train them for the test. And then once they pass the test, they're good to go. And so they don't have a grasp of it. And so what that does is it creates people that can still be productive in society, but they don't have any sovereignty over their society, which is they're supposed to have as an American in a democracy. Trump even said Obama would start a senseless war with Iran, and then he did it himself. Yeah, and I think it's obvious that the Israelis had nothing on Obama. They couldn't touch him, and so I remember one time I was listening to Christian radio. Netanyahu came to America, and they were angry that Obama didn't pick him up at the airport. It's like, he humiliated Netanyahu. I'm like, are you serious? They probably had something on Trump. I'm almost certain, man. I'm almost certain. When I saw that picture of him holding up Netanyahu's chair, I was like, nah, bruh. I was like, they got something on your boy. They have to. This is inexplicable. This is inexplicable otherwise. There was no explanation for this. Tulsi was out there selling no war with Iran shirts. Bannon was talking about it. Fuck, Elon was talking about it. Trump was talking about it over and over and over again. Now all of a sudden you changed your mind and nothing has changed since then. I had an Iran war apologist in here like an hour ago. You guys chased him away, but you can have you can defend the war of Iran here. Like you're allowed to disagree. It's just, you know, crazy. Do you think education shouldn't be regulated? I don't think it. When did he ever said education shouldn't be regulated, Ben? He never said that. What are you talking about? He literally said it didn't make education better. That doesn't. You're so extreme, Ben. My God. You know what, bro? Um, yeah, I still think you're wrong about Project 2025. Unless you can show me where Iran and all this fuck shit is in Project 2025. But I haven't watched Jimmy Dore. Is he pro war? Is Jimmy pro war with Iran? Yeah, Tulsi hurt me the most too. I don't think you were fooled, bro. I don't think you were fooled. I just think that I think she I think she overestimated her ability to maintain her own character. I think what we saw of Tulsi was truly what she was at the time, but she got tested and she folded under the test. But that doesn't mean that she wasn't genuine when she was saying the things she was saying. I believe she was genuine. It was just, look, man, there's what you believe in, there's the naivete that you have, and then there's the reality. It's the same thing that happened with AOC. You know, the only one that I haven't seen, and it's way too close, is Zoran. Like Zoran's doing really good stuff. I cursed the day that he was born in Uganda because, whew. But honestly, I don't believe that. I think if Zoran, I think if Zoran was a viable candidate for president, that he wouldn't be alive right now. He wouldn't be alive. Jimmy's been ripping the shit out of Trump. Okay, so Controller's wrong about that. She flew under my radar. I got to keep my head on straight and keep fighting for yeah, yeah. We just got to keep talking about it. Yeah, I mean, admitting you're wrong. Um, Look, you had a choice between the Biden administration, who had already demonstrated complete fecklessness relative to Russia and the other place. All they were talking about was more war. Biden was obviously not in a situation where he could lead us. Kamala is just incompetent. She would be a horrible president. So we were in a bad situation, and all you can go by is what you did before, and what he did before was decent. It was okay. Um, but our left wing friends, and look, it might just be vibes. I don't care what it was. They picked up on something that we didn't see, or we did see, but we thought, well, these are objective measures of things that he was doing. You know, I analyzed him the same way I was taught to analyze everything, right? And so you know, everybody knows I don't care about saying I was wrong about this, I was wrong about that, I was wrong about this, I was wrong about that. Like, I don't care. Because being right about Paul said something in the Bible. He said we can't do anything for or against the truth. You can't do anything for the truth or against the truth. Because the truth is inevitable, right? And so What that means to me is that we are owned by truth. The truth doesn't, we don't own the truth. Truth owns us. So in other words, if I say 2 plus 2 is 4, I am not right. I am just acting in accordance with what's reality, right? So I don't own 4, right? And so if I am right and the other person is wrong, it's not that I own rightness and they don't. It just means that for this particular aspect of reality, I have it, the other person doesn't. But I shouldn't be proud of that, and the other person shouldn't be embarrassed of that. That's not how I think. I really don't think about it. Um, Sori says I'm weird that saying something in public and then apologizing later doesn't embarrass me. She says that's weird, but I don't see the logic. We're not. None of us are God. So all of us are going by the information that we have, the experiences that we have, and then the paradigms that we put them through. And that's what growth is about. So I hear you. And I honestly believe that the person that Tulsi presented herself to be is who she genuinely was at the time. But here's something that the Bible shows you over and over again with people. It's the night that Jesus is about to get betrayed, go to the cross. And Jesus says to Peter, "You're going to betray me 3 times." And Peter goes, "What?" Peter said, "I don't know about the rest of these niggas, but I am willing to go to prison or death with you, man." Jesus said, "For real?" Jesus said, "All right, let's see it." So then Jesus gets attacked by the Romans and they start to try to arrest him. And Peter, he's got a sword. So Peter says, "I'm going to show this man that I wasn't just talking shit." So he pulls out a sword and he chops off the guy's ear, right? Because he's got bad aim. He's gonna body the dude, but he chopped off his ear. And Jesus goes, "Peter," which was really crazy for Jesus to do. I didn't explain to you why, but it was really crazy. Jesus is really funny. If you understood what I was referencing, you'd laugh too. But I can't talk about it right now because we're missing the point. So Jesus goes, "Peter, what are you doing? Put your sword back in its place. What's wrong with you guys?" So Peter puts his sword back in his place, and then Jesus heals the guy, right? And then he looks at the other soldiers and said, "Since you are coming for me, let the rest of these guys go." So they let him go. So everybody's following along to see what's going to happen, and Jesus doesn't escape. He doesn't escape. They're smacking him. He doesn't escape. They spit in his face. He doesn't escape. So now Peter's like, fuck. So there he is in the courtyard, and the girl goes, "Wait a second. Weren't you around that guy?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" So he denied Jesus 3 times is the point, right? And it says that the minute that Peter said the third denial, he looked up and Jesus was looking right at him. And it said he ran away and he wept bitterly. Here's the point of that entire story. I think that in the moment that Peter said, "I would never deny you," he was genuine. He was serious. He was real. And Jesus said, "Oh, is that so?" Because Jesus knew Peter better than Peter knew himself. So I think Tulsi, she believed that she would be able to stand up under the pressure and do the right thing and protect us from war. I really believe she thought that. But then when she got into the situation, it changed her opinion. And that's why that's what I think happened with her. I think she went in with great intentions, great motivations, and I think the avalanche of pressure that he could bring, I don't think any of us have an understanding of that. So I'm not excusing her at all, but I'd be a little bit nicer to yourself about getting tricked by her. You know what I'm saying? Kyle Kalinske from Secular Talk is far left and a little crazy, but he's hitting the right tone as of late. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, Malchus, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Apologizing and changing one's. Yeah, and I don't even think you have to apologize because, again, you had 2 horrible choices, man. You had Kamala Harris and you had, whatever. And with Kamala, please. That shit would have happened 2 months ago with Kamala. I was dead wrong about Gabbard. Now, I remember you were one of the reasons I started looking at her because I was like, oh wait, Control likes her. I was like, oh shit, oh, wait. It was you, and then some other guy was the big Tulsi people, Alec. Yeah, but I remember that. But again, I don't think you were wrong. I don't think you were wrong about Tulsi in 2020. I think the only person that was wrong about Tulsi was Tulsi. That's what I think. I think Tulsi was wrong about Tulsi. But I don't think that you in 2020 or Matt, I don't think that any of us were wrong about the Tulsi that we saw. It's just that she was wrong. She didn't know herself. And now she knows herself, right? And if she truly has integrity, she will remove herself from that position, I think. You could say like, well, if you remove yourself, then a good person, what does it matter? What does it matter? You heard today Trump the president of Spain, I don't know if they call it the president of Spain, but he was like, no, we're not going to let you use our bases for illegal wars. Trump comes on TV and says, we'd do it anyway. What's he going to do? If I went over there to do it, how would he stop us? It's like, whoa, dude. So a guy like that, if you've got any integrity, you should bow out and protest, Tulsi, because you're not going to be able to affect any good in the world. And the fact of the matter is, if I was God, I'd be like, you had one job. It's to stop that Iranian war. You're part of DIA. You could have done something. I mean, you can't stop what Trump is going to do, but you can come out on TV and say the Iranians, I repeat, are absolutely no threat to the United States of America or our interests. Any attack on Iran would represent um, advocation for another country or some shit like that, right? You put that shit on the record right before you hear that we're about to launch an attack against the Iranians. If she had that dignity about her that we all thought, that's what she would do. And it's on her to say that. You, me, controller, we've already admitted we were wrong here, here, or here, right? Now it's on her to be like, to have the integrity, to be like, yo, I did this. People believed in me. I got up on this pressure. My bad. We'd all forgive her. I know you'd forgive her if she said that, but ego's the hell of a thing. People don't want to admit they're wrong. That's right. That's right. That's right, Danny. That is exactly right. Said she was anti-regime change. That was her big thing. She was the one that popularized the phrase regime change wars, I'm pretty sure. And now it's this, you know? Yeah, I know. That's pretty crazy. We got to do something for the 10-year anniversary. It's pretty crazy. Yeah. Hey, listen, our boss, send me an email at Vin and Sorry because I changed my number. So, yeah. Too late for her. I consider her an empty husk too. Basically, what corruption and far right wingers mindset will do to a person. Yeah, dude. Yeah, but that's your only flaw, controller. It's like you make this a left right thing. Like she should never speak about politics there again. Same with Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton wasn't a right winger. Like it's just human nature, bro. It's not like Democrats are like really really good people. I mean, Gaza was getting rocked and all that stuff during the Biden administration. It's just not it's not left right, man. It's a specific class of people that genuinely believe that they're above the rest of us. Like that's one of the things that the Epstein files demonstrated is that this is not like a subtle thing. They're classist. All your left-wing friends that were telling you it's not necessarily racism, it's not necessarily thisism, it's classism. I think that's an oversimplification, but you cannot read those emails in the Epstein files and come out with any other conclusion that these people genuinely believed as a matter of like fact, like the earth is an oblong sphere, you know, grass is green. It's just a fact that we're superior to these people. It's all throughout the literature, and it's very like shocking to see it articulated in such stark terminology. It's like, what? You really think, you really believe? So experimenting on humans, all type of stuff, like it's mind-boggling. It catches you off guard, you know. And for all my talk about original sin, humans are capable of all this stuff, like it's still shocking to like see it. Like, whoa, man, you really believe you're better than people? Holy shit. It is left right to some degree, though. What you fail to understand is that if you had a realistic view of the entire political spectrum that exists, liberalism is actually pretty far to the right. Well, yeah, I mean, I've learned that from you guys, that from your guys' perspective, that the Democratic Party is a right-wing party. And I think AOC said that, you know, when she was, I don't know if she had just gotten elected or she was giving an interviews for the election. Um, it's, if you're saying it's not left, it's left and right in the sense of you're saying that the left is Bernie Sanders. So, but didn't Bernie vote? Didn't Bernie vote to give the Israelis weapons, to keep giving them weapons? Like, tease out your point, Ben. Hey, yeah, what's up? What's up? What's up? Good to see you, baby. Ian in the house. Been a while, sir. Ozzy in the house. Holy smokes. The fact that we frame liberals as the left requires grounding for our entire reference point for the politics on the right. No, I agree. And you shifted my Overton window. Well, I think all you guys did. Um, but I don't think it can be as simple as left wing good, right wing bad. Right? Like it just that kind of calculation to me is just way too simplistic. And I think simplistic calculations are part of the things that got us here. Human beings are extremely complicated and layered, and we are all walking contradictions. So it's very hard for me to be able to just like broad brush everybody in a political, you know. But you guys know me. I won't even say that about Nazis. Like I think there are people in Germany at the time, like once Hitler took over and the fucking wave was what it was, like I'm sure there's a lot of people that disagree with it, but they were too scared. See what I'm saying? And I think that a lot of the function of the left in the country has been to warn us of that and inoculate us from that. And somehow the true leftists in they saw it before anybody else did. And I think you know what happened? I think corporate media picked up on the narrative, but they were doing it from a completely cynical place because they were those people. They just didn't like that Trump had the power. So they rode that wave, but you had a group of leftists who I'm starting to see like they really meant it. They really believed it. It was something that we really saw. Once it got corporatized, it became very, very easy to dismiss. I will say that. That's true. I think I changed your views on the Prophet Muhammad a bit. Yeah, you did. You did change my views on. Well, the bigger thing that's more hard for me for somebody to do with me is you changed how I spoke about it. You know, we're specifically talking about Muhammad and his sexual assault of Aisha. You know, people keep saying marriage to Aisha, and I've probably swung probably to the other extreme, but I don't even like using the term Muhammad's marriage to Aisha. You know, because marriage is a beautiful thing and it's a good thing, and what Muhammad did to her was it was rape. It was not a marriage. And if you go up back and actually look at the hadith, I believe she had a panic attack, and the groomers there calmed her down and then handed her over to Muhammad. And so I love Islam. I love the people. Muhammad is an extremely compelling figure, but it's important, especially in light of the Epstein files, that we call the shit what it is. So, yes, he married her, and you might hear me say that they were married, but he sexually assaulted that girl when she was 9 years old, and that's unforgivable. So, yeah, Yeah, definitely. And the worst thing about that, I don't want to keep ranting about it because I hate the subject. But the worst thing about that, it would be bad enough if you could just say, well, that's Muhammad, he is. But the Quran says that he is the most excellent example to replicate. I've been in places where dudes are walking on a different side of the street. I'm like, why is that guy always walking on the side of the street? They said, because Rasulullah walked that way. So, like, they will copy the way he eats, the way he walks, where he chooses to walk. They will copy all of that. And so, when you say this man is the perfect, most excellent example, and then you have him doing that, now you've got 9-year-olds in Yemen getting married and getting their entire bodies ruined. I mean, that's a fact. There's an autobiography about it, and I didn't get through it. I'm like, okay, I can't do it. Can't do it. So, yeah, you definitely changed my mind about that. You can't whitewash. You can't whitewash that. You can't. And when I went back and looked at the hadith, like I said, she had a panic attack. Like she, she said, I was breathless then. And all the bullshit that they say. Oh, it's what do you say? You're committing the sin. You're committing the flaw, the logical flaw of presentism. You're judging people from the 6th century at 21st century standards. Also bullshit. Because you go through the entire Mohammedan corpus, the entire Sierra literature, and you go find me somebody else who married a fucking 6-year-old and then fucked a 9-year-old. Find me one person in the entire Mohammedan corpus that did that except for him. Abu Bakr, okay, Umar ibn al-Khattab, Uthman, Ali, the four rightly guided Khalifa. None of them hooked up with prepubescent girls. None of them. And they loved Muhammad. None of them did, except for him. So this was not a common practice in Arabia, actually. You go ahead and find me records of Arabians. Now, what would happen is they would guarantee their daughter to somebody. I'll guarantee her to you, so we won't let her get betrothed to anybody else. And when she's of age, you guys go live happily ever after. You had contracts like that, but you don't have any explicit mention, not many, of 7th century in the Arab Peninsula of dudes doing this. And you can even look at it from an evolutionary perspective. There's no selection pressure that's going to have anybody do that. That works against natural selection. What's her face? Aisha could never have a child after that. So, like, there's no reason for it. There's no explanation for it. Nothing. So, no, it was not something that was going on in their culture. And it was not something that the Muslims did. It's something that he did. Period. So, and I looked at it because that's usually the response is, oh, you can't apply 21st century standards to the 7th century. That's such bullshit. Secondly, Muslims will always tell you, and I love Muslims and I love them, but they'll always tell you, the Arabs, they used to practice a really brutal form of exposure where they would bury the child alive basically and leave him to the elements if they didn't like him. And most of the time they did that to little girls, but Muhammad came and made that illegal because he was a prophet. So I go, Allahu Akbar, that's beautiful. So why the fuck didn't he do that for prepubescent girls? You can't say he was great, he went against his culture, and he wouldn't allow the girls to be buried because he was a prophet, and then say he's allowed to do what he did to Aisha because that's what people were doing. And well, he's a prophet. You should have stopped it just like you stopped the other shit. But you didn't. You participated in it. Then you said you were the greatest example. And the shit that you did was so disgusting that all the people who were obsessed with following you, they couldn't even do it. Sorry. I love, like, people call me Islamophobe, all the rest of it, man. But I'm sorry. I'm sick of this shit where like we're out here like trying to run interference for fucking pedophiles, man. It's wrong. Period. There are girls in Yemen, all types of places suffering and shit. And we're out here, you know, because I love Muslim people to death, man. And we done horrible stuff to them people, you know. So I think I overcompensated. But my heart hasn't changed toward Muslim people. My heart hasn't changed toward Muhammad, but my heart has changed toward me. I gotta be accountable, tell the fucking truth. You fucked a 9-year-old child. You ruined that girl. She was playing with her fucking dolls, dude. All this shit the Muslims will say, they'll say, oh, she was more mature than the average girl. Arabian girls aren't like American girls. Shut the fuck up. She was in a fucking toy box with her friends, literally. You are not allowed to play with dolls in Islam because it's a replication of one of Allah's creations unless you're a child. And when they took that girl up and washed her face off and all the rest of it to present her to her fucking husband, they literally took her from the fucking toy box with her friends. Literally. It's in the narrative. So no, it wasn't culturally normal. If it was, then there'd be great opportunity for the prophet to do some prophet shit. He didn't. There's a lot of laws that the Quran like abrogated, said you can't do this anymore. So like at the beginning, the Quran says drinking is great, drinking is good, it's a blessing of Allah. And then later on, it comes and tells you stop doing that. So they have this principle of abrogation where Allah can tell you to do something, and then later on, he'll say, okay, you can't do that anymore. That's not one of the ones that he stopped. So look, I don't got no beef with Muslims. I love them. I think they're great. Pray for them every day. But nah, can't do it. I'm sorry. Can't do it. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Even in the animal kingdom, it's unheard of for them to do that. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's no selection pressure that explains this. Like natural selection, like there are reasons I could see how racism can function as a selection pressure for survival for a particular group of people in a species. Like I can get there, but I can't get there with that with kids, man. I can't. I can't. I can't. And the reason that Abu Bakr and the rest of them boys, like, I'll tell the girls sometimes, well, I'm 15, and I'll be like, you guys like your parents too much. This is not normal to like your parents so much. You want to hang out with your parents. They're like, you guys are so cool though. You guys are on YouTube. Everyone's hanging out with you. I'm like, no, hang out with them. And so I point outside, I'm like, look at that little girl. Go hang out with that little girl. They're like, Dad, she's like 22. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, she's 22. I thought the girl was 15. Just hit 40. I thought the girl was 15 years old. I didn't know that I was looking at a 21-year-old. So I cannot imagine myself or you or anybody looking at a 9-year-old and even having the mechanics to even perform the act. Y'all know what I'm saying? This is something that was unique to him, and he was sick. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He was sick. What happened to Aisha was sick. It was evil. It was satanic. And she never recovered. And I think that the reason that she was at the center, because Aisha was at the center of the Sunni-Shia split, I think that was her get back, man. I really do. She did those people so dirty that every year on her birthday, the Shia, they curse her. They curse her and wish her to go to hell. Like that's how she ravaged the Muslim world after Muhammad died. And I think it was some sort of subliminal, like, fuck you, get back. But yeah, that's something that's probably the wrongest I've been in my entire career online. Was that for sure. For sure. It's not wrong to love people. It's not wrong to love downtrodden people like Muslims are. That's not wrong. That's good. That's always good. But you cannot overcorrect. You got to be, the Bible says you must have a just hin and an honest ephah. You have to be balanced, and you have to apply the scripture to everybody at the same way. So I think I remember one like 6 or 7 years ago, I called Muhammad a pedophile. You got mad. Yeah, I got mad at a lot of people for it. I did. I did. And I was wrong about that. But thankfully I had people that like continue to press the issue. Because most of the time, when I feel strongly about someone or a given issue, people usually leave it alone. But Amstaff, our boss or whatever he is, he would never leave it alone. He would keep bringing it out. I was like, this fucking guy. But it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. I get negative chills down my spine when I read through some of the conversations between our princess. I know, bro. But see, controller, your people did something about it though. Like Prince Andrew got bounced out of there. Folks started getting arrested, all type of shit. Nothing's happening in America, bro. There's no fallout from this. But you guys all over the world know to do this shit. They're like, I don't care if you're a prince, you're whatever. We don't give a fuck. You did that shit, you out of here. That's how it's supposed to be. Shout out to Europe, man, for real. Terrible. Terrible. Yeah. We're coming to the reactions. She's still got some stuff to take care of with her folks and stuff. Pretty crazy situation. Um, but yeah. Like tomorrow type thing. I want to take a nap, wake up, and then just go right into the music. Muhammad was a savage warlord who took child brides. He was also most likely inbred. Nah, he wasn't inbred. He was not inbred. I know what you're talking about, though. You watched that debate with Andrew Wilson? That's why I'm not going. That's why I'm not going to any of them debates, man. They clip you and shit. Oh God, what a terrible situation. Yeah, child brides and inbreeding are common in Arab culture. Like, you're kidding me? King pedophile from Pedophile Island. What's behind a conspiracy that involved? Oh man. Racism actually makes reverse sense for selection. Genetic diversity creates stronger. To a degree. Yeah, I mean, bro was pretty sure he was 53 when he did that to Aisha. He was 53 years old when that happened. So I no. Yeah, I knew it was you, Dan. Change your name back. I don't like this name. Prince Andrew's English, but yeah, I'm Norwegian. Yeah, but we can depend on y'all to do the right thing in these situations. Ain't no question with the Europeans. We're gonna have to wait till Trump leads office for any arrests to happen, if any do happen. It's hard to accept, man. Okay, it's just very. It's it's hard to accept. It's hard to like. It's hard to have children and think there were a bunch of kids separated from their parents, and that's how they were treated, away from their parents without their father to protect them or their mom to comfort them. Oh, why did God kill the Canaanites? Because they do shit like that. That's why. You think if God came and just completely destroyed this country and I stood in front of him, you think I'd say, why did you just do that to us? And then we find out it happened. And all these countries around the world are going, you were on that fucking list, you're out of here. But America, nah, bro, you're good. Come on, you're good. And you got people that'll still defend this guy. There's people still defending this. Women defending this dude. How? Like, even if you think that he's completely innocent, he was protecting people who were not. How's that different? Uh, I don't know. What did she do that split Oslam into factions? What are you talking about? No, I'm really curious about that question. All right. Did you see the pictures of former Prince Andrew after his police interrogation? It's hilarious. He looked haunted. It was beautiful to see a predator so scared. Yeah, yeah. I genuine question because the files dropped had so much content that I haven't been able to review everything. What did the files reveal about Trump that would incriminate him as a participant? Well, that's why I said, even if you don't believe that he did anything in the files, at minimum, he was protecting people that were definitively doing that stuff in the files. I don't, there is, I think the DOJ just admitted that they deleted 42,000 files that were related to accusations against Trump. Um, I don't think we're ever going to see, I don't think that we're ever going to see the pertinent situations relative to Trump because I believe the Israelis have that information. That's what I believe. Are we allowed one conspiracy a year? Are we allowed one conspiracy a year? That'll be my one conspiracy a year. Okay. Oh, I misspelled Islam. What did Aisha do that split Islam into factions between Sunni and Shia? Okay, so after Muhammad died, you had Abu Bakr, right? So Abu Bakr was the guy that took over after Muhammad. Abu Bakr dies, then Umar ibn al-Khattab takes over after that. Everybody's pretty much united with Umar. Then there's this guy named Uthman. Uthman was sort of a beloved figure. Everybody loved Uthman. Um, He's handsome. He's beautiful. Muhammad loved him. Everybody loved him. He was always generous with his money. He was a great guy. The problem with him is that he was always partial to his friends and family. So he started giving people in his family positions of power, right? And they didn't like that. So there was a faction of people that didn't like that. So eventually it got so heavy that they surrounded his house and they killed him. Okay. Well, Aisha was a big fan of Uthman. All these people are like related second, third, fourth, fifth generation relatives. Aisha was a gigantic fan of Uthman. And so everybody was a fan of Uthman except for that faction. So as soon as Ali became the leader, because after Uthman died, then it was Ali. There's a lot of pressure on Ali. Like, look, Ali, you have to go find the people that killed Uthman and finish these people. But Ali was, well, yeah, we got to look into it. But he was thinking about jihad, expanding the kingdom, all that type of stuff. Because during Umar's reign, Umar ibn al-Khattab, they were wrecking shop. They were expanding. They took over Israel. They took over Jerusalem. I mean, they were going all over the place. They were killing it. Uthman got in, all the drama started, so they stopped expanding. So when Ali gets in, avenging Uthman wasn't really his top priority. His top priority was the continuation of the expansion. Well, this is happening over and over and over again. So then eventually you had Shiat Aisha and Shiat Ali. So Shia just means the party, right? So Shia just means party. So you had people that went with Aisha. It was the majority, and you had other people that supported Ali. So the people that were supporting Aisha were like, listen, you're related to these people that killed Uthman, and now you ended up being the Khalifa. So did you have something to do with it? Ali's like, this is ridiculous. I had something to do with killing Uthman. He's like the most righteous guy on the planet. Nobody believed that Ali had something to do with it. But anyway, long story short, these dudes call Ali up to go see them because they're like, we want to talk to you about the situation. Everybody's like, Ali, don't go, don't go, don't go. He's like, man, they ain't gonna touch me. I'm the. And so they have this giant kind of face off, and Aisha and him kind of meet in the middle, and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, what are you doing? So they kind of have a face off, and everybody goes their separate ways, right? So dudes call them up to this town, and they're like, yo, we gotta talk to you about some stuff. And they're like, don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go. And Ali's like, I ain't no bitch, I'm going. Ali goes by himself. Well, Ali shows up and he gets dispatched immediately, and it was pretty gruesome. I mean, they chopped him down, right? So it was this dude named Muawiyah. just came in and just like cleared out, tried to clear out Ali's entire family line, basically, taking orders from Aisha. So we got back, they set up, so everybody that stayed on Aisha's side were Sunni, okay, because Sunni means path. And so the Sunnah, Sunnah, is the path of Muhammad. So the Sunnah is the Quran and the Hadith and the Sirah literature is the path that you go on. So they call themselves Sunni. We're Sunni Muslims. We're the ones on the path. The other ones call themselves Shia because it is short for Shiat Ali, those who are in the party of Ali. And for them, Ali represents pure Islam, real Islam, before people jumped on and took over. So Aisha was at the center of that, which is really, really amazing. But it completely split the religion, and they've never recovered from it, obviously. So every year on Aisha, and there's like, they hate her. I mean, they accuse Aisha of killing Muhammad because Muhammad was poisoned, all type of stuff. So I was watching this one Shia sheikh one time, and he was talking about how he curses Aisha on her birthday every year. He says, try it. He says, curse her and then ask Allah for something, and he'll give you whatever he wants, whatever you want, because Allah hates Aisha so much. Like, there you go. So that's how she destroyed the world, pretty much. That's how she destroyed Islam, basically. I remember you saying that your son campaigning for Trump had, oh, he's so hurt. He's so hurt. He's like, what the fuck is going on, father? I was like, I told you. Yeah, he's hurt bad. He's hurt bad. Bad, 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 bad. Have you gotten shit from fellow Christians when you question these things as not worshiping Israel out of default? Yeah. But see, I always had a theological problem with that school of thought because it's just impossible to defend in the New Testament. So when I was coming against that, this was like years ago, before I met y'all, before everything. At the time, it was just a theological debate, and it was a bad one. And you guys know how I am with debates. And so I didn't really get anything about it because, people, you don't want to get into an argument with Vin about this because, how shit goes. So yeah, I got stuff from, but at the time it was just more of a theological kind of like, this makes no sense versus, all that other stuff. Yeah, Ian. Weird how every religious practice finds a way to blame women for stuff. Well, the Shia definitely, but the Sunnis almost revere her, like mega revere her. It's a very strange, a religion that has a reputation for misogyny where a woman has such sway. Is interesting. I need to know why Trump, more likely someone close to Trump who gave him a decent bullshit story, asked him to slow. Why didn't the Dems do that between 2021 and 2025? I think you have an interesting point, Ignoble Savage. Maybe rephrase that. I knew there was a disturbance in the force that woke me up. So this is the new thing, hatred disguised as virtue. That's interesting. I don't know what that means, though. Should I be in this chat or the other one? I mean, I see you, but if you're lonely, you should probably jump in the other one. I don't know why the Dems did nothing with the files. Maybe they were trying to protect Clinton. Of course they were trying to protect Clinton. Don't get it confused. The Clintons are absolute royalty in the Democratic Party. Like, just because Obama went and did what he did, they're still the institution there. Make no mistake. If you had to become a Muslim, which faction would you choose? I would be 12 years ago. I would have been a Salafist because that would be the quickest way to war, would be to be a Salafist. But now I would be a Sufi. The Sufis are mystical. They've got a real mystical relationship with God, and there's a lot of emphasis on worship. And actually, they actually had a Sufi dancing in a Behemoth video. I think it was a video about, I forgot which one it was, but they had a Sufi dance. It was beautiful the way they did it. But yeah, I would be a Sufi if I was a Muslim. But 12 years ago, I would have been a Salafist for sure. Of course, the corporate Dems wanted to protect their own. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. America has royals. The difference is that they're not held to any standard whatsoever. See, in England, they got royals, but there's all this pressure on them to be a certain way and to hold a certain kind of dignity. And there's this understanding that you are the representation of all Europe and blah 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 blah. And so they have these weird whatever, but you get the royal status, but you also get the accountability. But in America, we make these people royalty and they're not accountable to anything. And that's our problem. That's where we get in a lot of trouble. Who is the worst kid? Who would be the worst Democrat to be the 2028 candidate? Kamala or Hillary? I can't think of anything worse than a Kamala or Hillary ticket. So I'd have to say Kamala. I just think that Kamala would be a disaster. Newsom? You think that Kamala would be better than Newsom? Another day of us in a war where we play Zeus and throw our thunderbolts in relative peace and comfort. Yeah. Oh yeah, Kamala, she's really, really thinking about it. She's really thinking about it, you know? Because when you hear her talk, it seems like she feels like she got robbed or something, like it was her birthright, like she was just supposed to get the presidency. Kamala Clinton 2028? I don't know about that one, brother. I don't I don't know about that. And I understand she would do an I told you so tour, but my question to her would be, what the fuck would you have done differently? Honestly. Come on. We saw what you were doing with the Israelis already. Because no confirmed victims have accused Trump. I tend to believe for now that he didn't do the whole dirty thing, but I think he talked up. Well, what I'll say about that is I don't see an escape hatch, even if that was the case, because he fought like mad to keep those files sealed. So if you knew what was in those files and you knew that it was a bunch of kids who were getting fucked up, literally, and you didn't want it released to the public because you wanted to protect the people that were doing it, then you're horrible. You should, you know? So there's no escape hatch for me with this guy. Because a dude who's a pedo and a dude who supports a pedo are non-different to me. So a Harris Clinton presidents would be better than the fascist regime in charge now, to be fair. I don't know if it would be better for people outside of America. I do think it would be better for America. We'd have more freedoms and speech and things like that. Wouldn't have to worry about a shadow police force coming to jam you up in the middle of the night. But as far as people overseas, nah, man, she wouldn't be better. Go ask the Gazans if a Democrat ticket was better for them. I don't know, man. It just seems to me that there is no war. I asked this in another forum once. I said, "Is there a war that you evangelicals won't support?" Honestly, is there a war that evangelical Christians in America have not supported? Like, I remember going to church and all that shit, and like dudes that show up in their fatigues, coming to church in their fatigues, you'd stand up and, oh yeah, you said, yeah. It's like, I understand, like, this guy just came back from Iraq, blah, blah, blah. But you're communicating something about a value system when you do that, you know? So, I mean, it's crazy. I find it weird how people are trying to say Trump didn't do anything when he said on Howard Stern his limit is 12 years old. Either Trump, yeah, show me that clip. He said a lot of crazy things. He said a lot of really crazy things on that Howard Stern show. Howard Stern, like in the 90s, guys, like you guys should pick that up. Some of you Zillennials, go look back at some archived Howard Stern. People were saying the craziest shit, bro, because it was the 90s. So you could say anything. And people were coming on that show and letting it out, man. Who would be the VP, Kamala or Hillary? I mean, does it matter? Well, I do think it matters. I think Hillary Clinton is a much more seasoned operator than Kamala. Did you see the vote on the House Oversight Committee that to compel Pam Bondi to testify again? No, that would be great though if she had to testify again. Holy shit. You mean the Gazans have been slaughtered mass under Trump's presidency? It's hard to imagine how things could be worse with someone who's not Netanyahu's best friend in charge. No, they were killing the kids since before that. Remember? That's why Rashida Tlaib, she went over to Dearborn and they had that no confidence vote in Biden. That was because of what was happening in Gaza. Biden signed off billions of dollars to the Israelis while they were fucking up the Gazans, and that's why Rashida Tlaib had to go back there and talk about it. So, foreign policy wise, I don't see anything different other than maybe it would have happened earlier. Honestly, um, yeah, I remember Howard Stern's. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's the thing, Stout. Around that time, Trump was making all these like, and somehow, some way, I don't know if it's fair to say he would bring it up, but it would always come up, and he would always talk about it that way. And it's like at the time, it's Howard Stern, whatever. But now, then you look at them files. It's I don't know, bro. I don't know. Hillary is definitely more hawkish, but Harris got her playbook from her. Both parties are in Israel's. Yeah, yeah. Like yeah. I agree, Danny. You're 100% correct. No room for Zionists in the Democratic Party. That's just not true. It's just a lot. That's just not true. It's a lot of Zionists in the Democratic Party, unfortunately. But this is why I say like you're flawed, controller, because we saw what Biden did in response to the Israeli aggression. Nothing, like zero. And we heard all the things that Kamala was saying about, how that needs to stop, which was nothing. See, no, I didn't say it would be worse. I said it would be better domestically, but overseas, I don't see much change. Right. So if I don't think Hillary, it would be as egomaniacal as Trump relative to the free speech stuff or saying you can't have guns. Like that should have been the end of Trump, for the Second Amendment people, but it wasn't. So what I'm saying is, I think domestically, Hillary and whatever, sure, it'd be better because we wouldn't have the Gestapo. But as far as overseas, nothing would change. It would be the exact same. The Ukrainians and the Russians would still be killing each other, and the Israelis would still be doing what they're doing. And I do believe that Hillary would absolutely co-sign a war with Iran. She already tried to instigate one. She tried to instigate a war with Russia during the whole Syria process in the Arab Spring toward the end. So that's my perspective on it. Is that relative to foreign policy, it looks like America has always had a unified foreign policy, which is we're just going to kill everybody. Obama came out here talking about all this stuff, drawdowns, all the rest of it. We need to get out of these wars. Then we had another surge, you know, like, and I understand like some of it is just you're an idealist and you think things are a certain way, and then you come and look at everything and you're like, holy shit. Like, I understand that. But if that's the case, I wish one of them would say, look, I said I was going to do this, and then I saw this information and I changed my mind. Here's the information. I know for a fact there's real sensitive shit in there, but I also know there's a lot of stuff in there that we could tell people. It doesn't compromise OPSEC, PERSEC, nothing. And we won't do it. That's my problem. That's my issue. I don't believe that I do believe there's a reason for secrecy in the country, and we need to have it forever. But people take advantage of that like you would not believe. Like you would not believe. Vin, totally off subject, but can you share your most intense encounter knowing you were in God's presence? So when I first came to Maine, I got hooked up with this church, and there was this guy, Jim Beach, 60s, but always happy. Always happy. I only seen him mad one time in the entire time. And we were around each other a lot because we were one of those churches. We just lived on top of each other. We used to go to a Bible study every Monday morning at Burger King. Like the dude that discipled me, every Monday he'd take me out. He'd go over the week. What's going on in the marriage? What's going on at work? Da 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 da. Here's the Bible. Da da da. And I'd report in. Here, how's it went? Well, I started growing like a weed, and me and him would reference it, and people started wanting to come. So we decided, well, I'm just going to show up an hour earlier, right? And then, so we get our time, and then everybody comes in for the Bible study. So at the end of one of those Bible studies, Jim goes, hey, let's go just talk to people. So we start going door to door and just start talking to people about the gospel, right? And I remember one time we were walking up, and Jim was like, oh, this is going to be easy, because we heard Christmas music, and there was like a Santa thing, and the little manger scene, knocked on the door. Bro was the most hostile person ever. He was fucking hostile, Pantera hostile. He was hostile, bro, to the point where I'm fresh from New York at this time, right? So I'm reading this guy's body language, all type of shit, and I'm like, okay, we got to go. So I'm taking Jim like gently, and like I'm small, but he was smaller than me. I'm like gently taking him away, and Jim like he won't move. Like he's like, you gonna get this. So he didn't want to leave because Jim used to do door-to-door insurance. So like he was a small guy, but he was aggressive. He didn't want to leave until the guy got his little track. So I'm like, all right, let's go, before the dogs come out. We turned the corner, and there's this house with a skull. I'm not even kidding. And again, this is Christmas season. There's a black skull for his mailbox. And then you go to his door, and there's like some crow or something as the door. Like, and I looked at Jim and I said, maybe we skip this one. He's like, nah, like it is what it is. So we knock on the door. Guy comes out exactly how you would think, long black hair, with the thing over here, the piercing, whatever it was. And he was the nicest guy. He sat through our presentation. I'm pretty sure now that I talked to you guys, I'm pretty sure he was a Satanist. He sat through our presentation, took the literature, said, thank you very much. Closed the door, all like that. That was just that was me and Jim. And Jim had cancer. Well, he was in remission. He was in remission from his cancer. And he came back. And at the time I was in the hospital, we were in the hospital having Dorian. So my firstborn. And I was so paranoid. because I wasn't supposed to be able to have kids. Like the doctor told my mom, like, well, that's another crazy story. But my doctor told my mom, like, well, he's okay, but he'll never have any kids. So your miracle's like 50-50. So I was convinced I was going to lose, right? So he's born. We're not going to church. Not going to church. I don't want people sneezing on him, touching him, all type of shit. Like, just chill out, right? So I finally go back to church, and Jim is the greeter, and he sees Dorian, and he just, like, it's like his head almost hit the ceiling. He just went crazy. Like, oh my God, there he is. And he hugged me, and, he was just, and his cancer came back, man. He ended up in the hospital. Everybody was calling me. They're like, yo, I don't think he's going to make it. And I was like, all right, cool. People kept calling me, yo, I don't think he's going to make it. So finally, Hal called me. It's the guy that discipled me. And he said, he's not going to make it. And everybody was telling me that because they were basically telling me, go talk to him because it's over for him. And I called him on the phone and he sounded so weak. And I was just, like, as soon as I heard him talk, I'm like, I'm not going over there, bro. He said, I like to see you, I said, yeah, Jim. I got a call 2 days later, he's gone. And that, funnily enough, set off an avalanche of people dying in my life, I guess. But he was the first one. It's kind of funny. Now I think about it, looking back. So I remember going to his funeral. And I remember it was the weirdest feeling in the world because it's still around Christmas time. It was the strangest feeling in the world. I sat down and they're starting, and I hate ceremonies. I hate graduate. I didn't go to my brother's funeral. I wouldn't go to my own if I didn't have to. But I sat down and I felt the weirdest feeling. I felt like I was at a graduation. That's what I felt like. It was such a strange feeling. I was like searching within myself, trying to figure out. And I was hurt, man. And I said, how could I remember talking to Jesus and saying, how could you do this around Christmas? How could you do that? And he said to me, well, I lent you guys Jim for 63 years and I loved him and I wanted him. I get presents too. That's what Jesus told me. Now he said, I understand that you loved him, but you didn't love him like I loved him. And I wanted him. Merry Christmas to me. Literally, I mean, and that comforted me. And then God told me, like, you feel like a graduation because you should be proud of him. He finished his race. He kept the faith. And to his dying breath, he was out there telling everybody the message. You should be damn proud of him. You had the things where, like, you stand up and talk about stuff, talk about people. And so I said what I had to say. Got home, I was doing pretty good. I did really good. And then now I understand. but grief just randomly hits you at times. And I remember having the baby, giving it to my girl. I turned this way and I walked through a force field of pain. I ran to the bathroom. I didn't want to cry in front of her because we just had the baby and she's, and I turned on the shower max and I just start bawling, 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 bawling. And I swear to you on everything, and I'm a Protestant, okay? We don't believe in this stuff. And this is one of the reasons I pause when you ask me this question, because we don't believe in this as Protestants, but I don't care. This is what happened. So I'm crying, and Jesus comes beside me, and I'm like feeling this. And he's beside me, and he's just like, just go, let it out. It's okay. It's okay. Just go, just go, just go. It's okay. And I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying. And then this strange, I'm saying strange, it's not, I'm just saying because okay. I get the distinct sense, whether it was Jim came down into the room or God brought me up to where Jim was, and he was behind me, and all I heard, he said, keep going, Jim. Then he was gone. But it was that smile that he always had. His face would get all red when he smiled because he's such a genuine dude. And it was like right behind me. Can't keep going. And he was gone. And then Jesus is there, and the presence of God was like, so it got to the point where I was like, I want to be hurt forever if I could just stay in this moment with you. That's what it was like. Like that moment, like the pain was like so worth it, because it was like there was nobody else on the planet except for me and Jesus in the shower running. And it was so intense. And yeah, that was like, I was not an open person to God. I was not an open person to the Spirit of God. I was not an open person to talking to God at the time. Like my theology was like, I didn't have like it kept you from those kinds of experiences, you know, because you had to see if they were theologically safe and correct to have those experiences. But I had them. And that was one of the more intense moments of my life with God, where the it was beyond physical. You know how we are, like if something is physical, it's real. Like it was some sort of substance beyond physical that was in that room with me, or I went somewhere. I don't know, but it was it was a deep, deep wound in my heart. Um, yeah, but it was definitely, it was huge. It was a huge moment. But like I said, it was a terrible situation. I wish he was still here. There's a lot of things I'd like to talk to him about, but the sweetness of that moment, like I would have went through anything and everything for that moment when Jesus was there with me. It says, in all their affliction, he was inflicted. In all their affliction, he was afflicted, and so he became their savior, and the angel of his presence saved them. And the Hebrew word, the angel of his presence, is actually face. So it says, in all their affliction, he was afflicted, and the angel of his face saved them. And it's just, when Jesus looks you in the face and says, cry it out, I got you. Like, That's the other reason I don't talk about it with Sorry. I don't talk about that situation a lot because every single time that happened over 20 years ago, every single time it makes me emotional. Every single time. Because it was such an intense, like, and there are very few times in my Christian life when I've gotten to those heights again. Um, but it was nothing like that. It was nothing like that. I mean, yeah. So yeah, that was my most intense moment with one of the more intense moments I had with God. And those two words got me through a lot. Keep going, you know, got me through a lot. So we had a plan, we had a vision for what we wanted to see in our city. And he was just telling me, like, go finish that shit, finish it. And I did. I did. Went out and did what finished the job. So yeah. Shout out to Jim Beach. Shout out to Jim Beach. Yeah, you pictured me in the shower. I wasn't like showering though. You know what I'm saying? I just turned the shit on so that I could, like, because you know how they say like so and so wept. It was like one of those. It was one of those big like. I don't know if it was just Jim or if it was just everything. Up until that point, I just came back from New York. Like I don't. That might have been it, but it was just tough, man. It was tough because he was such a good dude. Then getting emotional about taking a hot shower with Jesus. You guys are the worst, man. I didn't say I was taking a shower. I said I was in the. Yeah, well, that makes sense. I was in the shower. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, in the dark times, man, keep going. It's hard. Like when you're trying to, you got this big sort of vision, and we're gonna reach the city and shit like that, and it's like there were so many challenges, man. It just looked like an impossible task. And I remember like the first time like I baptized somebody, and I'm like, man, like I wish, but it's all good. He saw it somehow. That kind of crying I would like to be able to do a bit more often or even allowing myself to, right? Right? Exactly. Yeah, that was really like that right there was like a part of like no, I'm not Pentecostal. And at the time, Black Queen, I was like anti-Pentecostal. That's why I'm saying like I didn't believe in that stuff. I didn't believe in talking to God. I didn't believe in God talking to you. I definitely didn't believe in hearing from deceased people. Like none of that, you know? So, but he knew, and even after that experience, I didn't tell a soul about that experience, and I was still saying all that other stuff. Like I didn't know where to categorize it, and I was like still holding on to the other stuff. So yeah, like it was like complete. That's one of the reasons. Like it bothered me, like for weeks after. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, huh? You know? So yeah. I'm not worth a response from a God like that. I'm alive somehow, and many docs said it was a miracle, but I never had that personal connections others had that I wish I did. I'm here though. Well, I don't think that that moment was necessarily because I am worth whatever. The fact of the matter is, I've always been a needy person. You know, my I'm not gonna say my mother abandoned us, but she left my dad when I was a baby, so I didn't see her. You know what I'm saying? So I was always a clingy, kind of needy kind of person. So I think that God kind of looks at me and is like, well, this kid needs a little bit more than average. Like sometimes I talk about my experiences with God, people are like, oh wow, I don't. I don't think God does those things with people he's impressed with. You know what I'm saying? I think it's more like this guy needs some help. He needs a little bit extra. Uh, Other people don't necessarily have those issues, but I think I'm I'm a particularly weak Christian, and I think God has to make you got to kind of put the handicap in the game in that situation, if you get what I'm saying. I lost my mom 6 months ago. I've cried twice. I feel pretty guilty about it. Once when she passed because I was in the room, and once was at the funeral. I didn't cry at all when my mom died. Matter of fact, I had a job, and I left my mother's funeral and went and did the job, and nobody knew. You know what I'm saying? As men, like, that's kind of how it is. You know what I mean? Have to go. Looking forward to reading. Yeah. So, controller, let everybody know 8 p.m. I think is I'm gonna be on doing some music, doing a lot of music actually. Daryl, it was 4 years after my dad died before I let out my grief. I heard a song from Queensryche that literally talked about mine and my dad's relationship. I bawled for 20 minutes uncontrollably. Yeah, man. Yup. And it's good, man. It's a good cleansing, you know, thing. It's good to cry. It's good to let it out. And but that was the most intense moment with God I ever had. It was terrible situation. But I would not have traded that moment for the world, man. And that's always people always ask me like, what's your biggest like question with God when you question God, why this or whatever. And that's always my question when I hear people that from my vantage point are really genuine people and they don't have those experiences. And I'm like, they could really use this right now. So that's the only thing with me where I'm like, how, why? Like starving people in Africa, like I'm pretty much settled with that. But like, why genuine people who, like I said, I perceived genuine people who I believe would respond well. Why don't they get, you know? Because I wasn't going after him, like we went to the funeral. And what I was doing was I'm gonna suppress this as much as I can. I got a new baby, I got my girl, like, they're dependent on me. The baby doesn't know a thing about what happened. You know what I'm saying? So and the thing just like right hooked me, caught me by surprise, and I basically ran to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? So like it just came out of nowhere. It's not something I was like working up. It wasn't something I was praying or fasting. I wasn't doing none of that. It just grabbed me. The situation just grabbed me. I've done things like I've prayed, I've fasted, got myself in certain modes, like to like experience that again. And like there have been really cool, amazing like stuff you guys would believe, but nothing like that moment. And what the Lord taught me was like, don't chase those experiences like a drug addict, right? Like they are what they are, right? And you just got to keep chasing me and not the experience. And those aren't the same thing. It's not the same thing. So yeah. My mom's about to die soon. It's shit, but it's the way it is. We hope to have another year or two with her, hopefully. But when she goes, it's going to absolutely wreck me. I can't even think about it. I wonder, Ian, maybe send me an email. I think about you when I watch a certain group of shows. I think about you a lot, but I don't want to bring it up here out of respect to you. So send me an email or message me, and I'll send it to you. But death is a yeah, it's crazy. It's a hell of a thing for sure. My dad chose heroin over me. I guess it's God's plan. I had a friend, Big Sean. Let's see if I'm going to show this picture. God, there's so many names. I had this friend, Big Sean, and we met him at our church used to do these barbecues. So we do a barbecue and set up in the park, and everybody would come eat, and that's how we draw them into our cult. And the first day we did it, we had this guy who's a cook. His name was John. But John was like, he was a chef. And I don't know if you know chefs, but they're crazy. And I'm like, this is a neighborhood barbecue, bro. And it's not even that deep. He's like, no, we have to have it. You know what I'm saying? And so we're looking for the thing. And Sean comes up to us and say, what do you guys need? And he needed some whatever, whatever. Sean goes to apartment, comes back down. Boom, there it is. So we've got it. So we all lived happily ever after, blah, blah, blah. Well, Sean starts coming around, obviously. Plan worked perfectly. And we find out that he's got a heroin problem, like everybody downtown. So he moves in with John, the cook. And so they start living together. He starts working for John, the cook. And I'm like, this is perfect. Another success story. This is what we do. I've got that on video. I've actually got it on video. The moment that Sean met us, I actually have it on video. So we find out he's got this drug problem. And we're like, so John comes up to me, how do we do this? How do we address this? Da, 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 da. I said, let me think about it. Let me pray for it. Because we knew that there was, that's one of the reasons we were down there. We knew there was going to be issues, but we had never actually ran into somebody in that situation. So I never got back to John. I get this phone call. We're in the middle of a team meeting actually at church. I get this phone call. Yo, Sean's in the ER. He OD'd. John was coming to pick him up from work. He would answer the door. John breaks down the door. There's Sean laid out. His daughters are in the other room. So call the cops, da 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 da. And I'm like, John is one of these people, like he tells you all the details. I'm like, John, is he alive? John's like, oh yeah, he's alive. He's alive. So we all go to the hospital, whatever. And we decide, okay, game plan is you got to go to rehab, bro. We're gonna send you to Christian rehab. You almost died. You're 2 minutes away from dying. He goes, all right. So he detoxes at a friend's house, whatever. And then they shoot him up there. And so I'm going or whatever. The director, me and him are talking. The director looks at me and says, do not, under any circumstances, let his mother call him. He goes, I can't tell you how many times guy gets on the phone, Mom, they're treating me bad, blah, 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 blah. And then the next thing you know, we're going to a funeral. Okay, roger that. So we put Sean in there. I pulled Sean's mother aside. I said, listen, you know and I know how manipulative drug addicts are. If we don't keep him in here, he's going to die. I need you to trust me with the life of your son and not pick up the phone unless it's from me. She looked at me and she said, anything. And she was faithful. Not one time. She never did. We have this church thing going, blah, 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 blah. Sean shows up. He graduated. Not only did he graduate, he did such a good job that they put him on staff. So he's up there talking about how he was 2 minutes away from losing his daughters and how John broke down his door. We stayed with him in rehab, and people from the church consistently checked up on him while he was in rehab. They didn't just drop him off. Like, people were consistently checking up. People were going up and like speaking to his friends, preaching and stuff like that. But young people were doing it instead of the old counselors. You had young people, cool people that believed in this shit, so it was just great. And he's crying the whole time. Cause we all, and we were looking at the video of like when we met him for the first time and seeing him and the brightness in his eyes. And I looked over and I looked at the mom, and the mom like kept hugging me and all this. And I couldn't really look at her, and, You know, this is what we came to do. So like, my thank you is like right there. He's that's why we came to do it. And she was so proud of him, bro. She was so proud of him. You know, I went off and did my thing. My time came to a close. I'm hanging out with Sori, doing our thing. We start the channel. Everything is going good. And I get a message. Sean's dead. Bad day, something, fight with his girlfriend. He goes and I can't tell. He goes and takes a hit of fentanyl. And he was used to a certain kind of dosage, but because he had detoxed, it sent his body into shock and killed him. Happens a lot. Slipknot. Sean Clown, his daughter, that's exactly the way she died. Once I actually stopped communications with that organization because it happened so many times I couldn't take it. I was back, we were backstage with Korn, and Brian's working with these drug, and it's the same thing every time. So when you say your dad chose heroin over you, I can't tell you that that's unfair to him. But what I can say is that that's unfair to you, because I could tell you Sean loved the fuck out of his kids, and he fought like a motherfucker to stay with his kids. But the thing had its claws in him, you know? It just had its claws in him. I'm so sorry about your dad, but I'm almost certain I can tell you your father loved the fuck out of you, and he tried. I promise you he tried. They try. It's just they get caught, and it kills them, and it's terrible. And I'm sorry you're in that situation, but if you maybe you could look at it like he would have been gone a lot quicker if he didn't have you to stay alive for, you know? Fentanyl is a hell of a thing, man. Me and Sawyer were having a debate because I forgot what Singapore or something like that. They were about to execute drug dealers, or they'll kill you. And she's like, damn, that's kind of harsh. And I'm like, yeah, tell Sean's family that that's harsh, you know? So that's what I'd say to you, bro, is that I wouldn't look at it like your dad didn't love you enough. I would look at it like he loved you enough, but he wasn't stronger than the chemical, you know? You know what I'm saying? So rest in peace to your dad, bro. Um, and by the way, you have the right to feel and say whatever you felt and said. Okay. And God understands that. In the Bible, it says that the words of a grieving man are words for the wind. Meaning, God knows that when people are grieving and they're in pain, the shit they're saying, it's just, you're just saying stuff. You're in pain. So you have the right to say and feel however you feel, bro. I'm very sorry that happened to you, bro. But I promise you, your dad loved you. I promise you, in his last conscious thought, I promise you, you were there. I promise you. Then, can you explain to me from a Christian perspective how it's God's plan that an addict dies of heroin, or is that him being influenced by the beast? Okay, let's do this. There's this thing out right now. I'll probably do a video on it. It's about the Shroud of Turin, and the Shroud of Turin. No doubt. Vinandstory@gmail.com. Let me know how you're doing in a day or two, okay? I'm definitely going to pray for you. You're in my heart, bro. So I'm definitely going to pray for you, and I want you to tell me how you're doing in a day or two when I email you back. Vincestory@gmail.com. Don't play with me neither. Email me, bro. All right. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. So the Shroud of Turin. So the Shroud of Turin is supposedly the burial cloth that Jesus was buried in. And I will tell you, it is legit mysterious. Scientists are having a very, very difficult time explaining certain aspects of the Shroud of Turin. But it's looking like it could be what people think it is. Now, here's the reason I'm bringing up the Shroud of Turin, okay? So here's one of the aspects of the Shroud of Turin that's really, really interesting. And I promise you, big homie, Dan, I'm answering your question. I promise. The Shroud of Turin depicts a man with over 120 and potentially as many as 372 scourge wounds, along with deep, realistic Roman clots. These injuries are consistent with Roman scourging, including double puncture marks from whips, a thorny crown, nail wounds in the wrists and feet, and a spear to the side. Okay, so if you would have seen, they did a recreation of what it looked like. If you could have seen it, I mean, we all saw the Passion of the Christ. Maybe you didn't, but it was a brutal, 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 brutal way to die. Okay, horrible, horrible way to die. And Jesus did not have fun when it was going on. Okay. And here is why I'm saying that in the context of your question. Okay. Let me see here. There it is. Now, this is really funny because there's a question right now going around, who killed Jesus, right? And you got Nick Fuentes and all these guys. The Jews killed Jesus, you know. So here we go. Now here are the believers. These are the believers praying to God, okay? So they say the following. In fact, this is a very city where Herod, Pontius Pilate, that's the ruling elite, conspired with the Gentiles, that would be the Roman military, and the people of Israel, that would be the Jews, against your holy servant Jesus, whom you anointed. Now watch this. So, who are the players mentioned? Herod, Pilate, Gentiles, Jews. Okay, so Herod is supposedly king of the Jews, even though he was an Edomian. Pilate was the king of the Gentiles. Okay, so what Peter is saying is Jew leadership, Gentile leadership, Jew people, Gentile people, all four of these groups conspired together to destroy Jesus, to kill him, right? And look what he says. Verse 28. They carried out what your hand and will determined beforehand should happen. So if you were to go to the early church and say, who got Jesus killed? Was it Herod? They'd say yes. Another person says, no, it was Pontius Pilate. They say yes. They say, no, it was the Roman soldiers. He say yes. No, it was the Jews. They say yes. But ultimately, it says that Herod, Pilate, the Gentiles, and the Jews did everything that God decided beforehand would happen. The brutality that we see in the Shroud of Turin, the brutality that we saw in the Passion of the Christ was determined. All 128 lashes was determined by God onto Jesus. That's a fact. That's what the Bible says. It says, all we like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Okay. So God put Jesus in that situation. And the reason he did that was for what reason? Well, there's this passage at the end of the Bible, and the guy's not very popular, and he should be very popular because this is one of my favorite books in the Bible, and it has one of the most amazing outros ever. Okay, this outro is like my favorite outro of all time. You know the outro, like the last thing you say to your group before you leave. Okay, it's usually called a doxology. All right, so here's a doxology at the end of Jude. It says, "Now to him who is able to keep you from stumbling and to present you blameless." Dan, listen closely. To present you blameless before the presence of his glory with what? Great joy. To him who is able to keep you from stumbling, present you blameless before the presence of his glory with great joy. Well, Dan, how can you stand blameless before God? You've done so many blameworthy things. You've said blameworthy things. But yet, you are blameless. And not only blameless, but great joy. No disrespect to the Quran or Islam. But when Islam talks about the final day of judgment, it's fearful. It's terror. People are terrified. Sweat's going up to the hilt of your neck, whatever, whatever. Did you see what this man just said? He said that the day that we see Jesus and we have to give an account for our lives, we're going to be blameless and it's going to be nothing but joy and it's going to be great joy. Why? Because God determined Acts 4 for Jesus. Truly in this city, Herod, Pontius Pilate, the Gentiles and the Jews conspired against your holy servant Jesus. They did whatever your will and hand determined beforehand should happen. God decreed pain, real pain, deep pain for Jesus. Theologically speaking, Jesus suffered more than any being in the universe. Because not only was he dealing with the cross, which is what we can see, but he was dealing with sin, which we cannot see. So the outward expression, he was beaten beyond human recognition, meat in the shape of a T, as Marilyn Manson said. You would not have recognized this is a human being. The Shroud of Turin, they've got the man has scars all on his, just brutal, 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 brutal. And yet, God decreed that pain and suffering for Jesus because he wants you to be greatly joyful and not afraid on the day of judgment. So here's the principle. And this was like one of the Bible passages that everybody talks about, but it's so important. It's so important. If you don't have a theology of suffering, forget about it. But look, here is what Jesus was thinking about when he was on the cross. Okay, so we have actually what Jesus was thinking about while he was on the cross. If I can pull this thing up for goodness sake. All right, so it says, "Let us fix the." Oh, this is such a good verse. You should memorize this verse. You should memorize this verse. It's my favorite one. It's Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. It's very, very important. It says, "Looking to Jesus." This is so important, guys. Stand by. It's Hebrews 12:2. It says, "Looking to stand by." All right, I'm just gonna read it. I'm not gonna put it on the thing. Take my word for it, let the devil defeat us. Isn't that what we're supposed to say? I think I'm coming back. I think I'm coming back. Stand by. I'm watching myself like in the past as the thing is catching up. All right, I think I'm back now. All right, so it says, "Looking to Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, And then it says, he endured the cross, despising the shame. Okay. So being crucified. Am I still choppy? I think I should be good now. I think I should be good now. He endured the cross, despising the shame. Yeah, it's probably the Bible software that slowed everything down. Can you hear me again though, big homie Dan? the lag the lag ruined the climax. Okay. Uh, just confirm that you can hear me. Just confirm that you can hear me. Okay. So the text says that we should look to Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. Okay, who in the author and perfecter of our faith, who endured the cross, and then he said, despising the shame. Okay, so people were crucified naked, right? And on top of that, he's supposed to be a king. They put a crown of thorns on him. The entire point of crucifixion was to make you completely say, as a man, I'm not going up against those guys because that's not an honorable way to die, right? They're in a shame honor culture, and so being shamed was a fate worse than death in the ancient Near East. As a matter of fact, that's why you have honor killings to this day. This is people can't deal with shame. Okay, so shame was a really important thing. So, but Paul said, but Hebrews says that Jesus endured the cross, despising the shame. Why? For the joy set before him. Jesus had self-interest when he went to the cross. I hope people understand that. He wasn't just dying for me. Okay. He was calculating, if I endure this, I get Vincent. And if I get Vincent, we're going to be happy. So I'm willing to endure this for 3 hours so that I can have Dan forever. So this is nothing compared to the joy I'm going to have with Dan. So he endured the cross, despising the shame because of the joy set before him. Jesus had self-interest on that cross. When it says to him who is able to keep you from falling and present you blameless with great joy in the presence of his glory, that is what got him through the cross. What got him through the cross was not, I'm gonna. I'm not looking at this. I'm looking to that day when Dan stands before me and he's perfect and he says, "What do you mean? What do you mean? I did this, this, and this, and this," and I'm gonna get to say, "You did nothing. I took it." So the paradigm is, to the degree that you suffer, is to the degree exponentially that God is going to reward you with himself. Paul says, I consider our lights and momentary affliction are working for us an eternal weight of glory. Jesus said that if we suffer with him, we'll reign with him. The big thing about Christianity, it doesn't escape you from suffering. But what it does say is that God suffers with you and God suffers more than you because he's dealing with your suffering and the fact that you're somebody who loves who's suffering. You see? So every time you're crying about something, he's heard about what's hurting you, but he's also personally hurt because somebody that he hurts is hurt. And so the scripture says, in all our affliction, he was afflicted, and though he became their savior. Every religion has an answer for suffering, but only Christianity says that our God became one of us for the express purpose of experiencing suffering, experiencing loss. Jesus said that his disciples were his children. So that means when Judas gave him that last kiss, and Jesus says, "You betray the Son of Man with a kiss," that's the last time he was able to talk to his son. Jesus knows what it's like to lose a child. He knows what it's like to have people betray you. He knows what it's like to work your ass off for somebody and have them spit in your face at the first turn. He knows all of it. God knows that experientially. Muslims can't say that. Hindus can't say that. So I would commend I would commend that to you, Dan, is that your suffering is working an eternal weight of glory. When you see what God has planned for you because of the way you handled, the way you loved your mother to the end, how faithful you were to your mother, you don't, when you see how he reacts to that, you're going to say, this Jesus, he kind of exaggerates, huh? You have no idea, man. You have no idea. Well done, bro. Well done. You loved your mom to the end, bro. Well done. And the fact that you cried twice, you and I both know we're men in this world, right? God understands that. There's no room for guilt in this stuff. Only glory. That's the thing about the cross, man. No guilt, just glory now. Theological implications of that, though, leads to an unfair heaven. We cannot control how much suffering we endure. Would the implication mean of that mean that one who suffers less gets less God after? That is interesting. That's an interesting take. Um, that is generally true, but not necessarily true. I'll tell you what I mean by that. I told you guys about the horrible situation I had with Jim and losing Jim and how God was like, he met me in a just a really unique, powerful way. And I said, there were times when I hit certain heights. I never had that, but there were times when I hit certain heights and nothing was going on. But God called, there was one particular summer before everything in my life blew up, where he would call me to the basement for hours, hours. And I was just reading, praying, worship. And I would just go and journal. And I was just going. And I was like in such a place, man. Like I was like the most focused I'd ever been. Okay. Because like you guys know how I am. Everything is big picture, right? And so I was doing all this stuff, man. And there wasn't any like gigantic drama happening, but I felt so close to the Lord. It was incredible. It was beautiful. And so most of us are weak in the sense that we get distracted, and suffering many times gets us focused. There's a passage in the scripture where Jesus is talking. He says, I will watch you and with my eye on you and I'll teach you. And then he said, don't be like the horse and the mule that you have to put a bit and bridle in his mouth. Otherwise it won't stay next to you. He says, don't be like that. Just come. I got things to teach you. I'll show you. I'll guide you. But don't be like don't be like that. Don't make me have to make you. And so God respects our agency. And if we don't want to take time out of the day to talk to him, if we don't want to recognize him, he's not going to throw a lightning bolt at you or whatever. But all of us have to understand something. If you made it home from wherever, it's because God got you home safe. If God did not dispatch his angels to protect you, you would make it down the street. So a lot of times God's be like, okay, I respect your agency, but I have agency too, right? So what would happen if I lifted a little bit of my hands of protection over you? The money goes crazy and this goes crazy and that goes crazy. And now all of a sudden you're focused again. So there's a lot of give and take that has to happen when you decide to give a being agency and will, and you're going to respect that. There's a lot of sacrifices that have to be made as far as like how the relationships work. So that's how I'd look at it. Suffering gets us focused. And a person who's being moved by the spirit, that suffering is going to make them ask questions like the questions that Dan asked. I'm not saying that the rest of y'all are not being moved by the spirit, but I know Dan is somebody I've been praying for specifically relative to all this stuff, and I know what's happening when that's happening. That's specifically about him. So that's how I look at it. Obviously, a lot more can be said, but that's my calculus. The calculus is whatever you suffer and endure, it's going to come back on the other side exponentially. You're going to feel like you don't deserve what he showers on you. I'm telling you the truth. That comes with the caveat of accepting God into your heart and meaningfully repenting. I fear I'm too skeptical for that. Well, um, listen, Jesus told people, he told his disciples on a multitude of occasions, he said, look, I'm going to die, but don't worry, on the third day I'll rise from the dead. He told his people that, right? So he dies, he gets buried, and the girls go out to, anoint his body and do the thing that you do, right? And they run into Jesus, and Jesus literally, he says, good morning, it's nice to see you. Like, literally, it's what it says in the Greek. It's ridiculous. It's like, you just pulled off the greatest miracle in history. Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. So anyway, she's like, are you kidding me? Are you serious right now? So she's grabbing him, and he's like, you don't need to grab me. I'm not going anywhere yet. I haven't gone up to my father yet. It's all good. You don't need to grab all of me. It's okay. I'm not leaving you. I'm not going anywhere. so So he goes, look, go tell the boys, get the boys together, tell the boys that I'm up, I'm good, it's all right. So the girls go to the boys and say, hey, he rose from the dead. And you know what the text says? It says they didn't believe them. They thought they were telling, women's stories. I mean, it literally says women's stories in there. Here's my point. Jesus' disciples were skeptics when they were walking with him. They didn't have full belief in who he was. There's a lot of times that they didn't have full faith in him. When the girls said that he rose from the dead, they didn't believe them. They reacted the same way we all reacted when we first heard it. And yet, those are the people that Jesus chose. And he lived with them, and he ate with them, and he taught them. And he would listen to them and say, oh, wow, we believe you're the Son of God. And he knew, all you're going to abandon me. And none of you are going to believe the girls when they tell you I rose from the dead. So if you have to have perfect faith, perfect belief, without any doubt, without any skepticism, to follow this man and to be part of the family, then all of us are out. The best people that started this religion, the people that are foundational, that gave their lives for this thing, were skeptics. So I would commend that to you. There's a guy that went to Jesus. He said, my kid is sick. If you can heal him, he'll be okay. And Jesus said, if I can heal him? And the guy said, Lord, I believe. Help my unbelief. Right? You wouldn't ask that question if there wasn't a scintilla of belief. There's belief in there, Dan, but there's skepticism in there. Okay, just go with it. Say, this is where I am. I believe in you and I don't believe in you. I'm very compelled by your personality and your teachings. I think the resurrection thing is weird, man. I think all the healing stuff is very hard for me to believe, bro. You got a talking snake in that book. You got a donkey that talks in that book. You got a dude that was hanging out in the guy's, you know, a lot of stuff. But yeah, I can't get away from you, Jesus. Like you're always in my head. There's always something about you somewhere. And that's all I got. If that's what you got, that's what you got. And you go with it, because you will not be able to talk to that man for a year and be the same. You won't. And a confident person, right? If you're on a dating show or whatever, and the guy is confident, and she's like, I'm very picky about my food and decide where to go. The guy's like, we can go anywhere you want. You see a confident dude, he's like, you can go wherever you want. She's like, I still like Joey. That's okay. Come on down. Let's talk. Okay, let's see if you still like Joey in a year. That's what a confident. So that's God, man. God is really, really, really confident. He's okay. He can overcome the hard part. He's already done the hard part with you, Dan. The hard part's already over with for you, Dan. So I commend that to you, bro. You got to be honest about your skepticism. I am, you know, You got to be honest with Christ. You got to have somebody you just like let it all out to and know the real truth. To be fair, though, if a random woman told you tomorrow that Jesus has returned and that she has physically touched and hugged him, you probably wouldn't believe them either. It depends on who it is. If Sori told me that, I would believe her. But I get your point. Yeah, I would have to go to him, but I wouldn't say nah. Yeah, doubting Thomas. That's another one. Ignoble savage. That's right. Doubting Thomas, hand in the wound, right? And these are people. These are people that saw Jesus do a lot of crazy stuff, right? It was really interesting, Dan. Because I'm working on something that's like massive, like mega massive, and like I have been blown. I was like, yo, Christianity is the truest fucking thing ever, ever. Like what I'm working on right now is just like so crazy. I previewed it to my son. He was like, "What?" Like, dude. Anyway, like the thing I've been working on right now, I'm like, dude, Christianity is the truest thing on the face of the earth. It's the truest thing that's ever been. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. Um, but yeah, um, there's definitely doubts that people have and things like that, and I don't think that it's incompatible with faith. I think that our faith, just like everything else, will be perfected when we're face to face. But the imperfection of our faith is something that God loves, actually. Because if you had perfect faith in Christ and followed him, it's really not costing you anything, right? Because you're like, I completely trust this guy. But if you have doubts and fears, but you're still walking with it, that that is what he loves, right? Wow, this guy's like not even completely convinced, but the little of me he knows he's following, he can't help but love that. He can't help but reward that. There's times that you just paint God into a corner. People don't like this language, but it just is. If he loves you, there's things that limit you when you love somebody. So, yeah. In Jesus, God is not just like up there. In Jesus, God has now come down and become one of us. And then in his spirit, he has come now to live beside us as it's happening. When I tell you guys, Jesus sat next to me at the bathtub and all this, like that's the Holy Spirit manifesting that presence to me in a way that I could understand and in a way that I needed, and the people around me needed, because if I'm not right, then people suffer. so, so yeah. Um, so I don't know if that answered your question, Danny boy. Send me an equal. According to Trinity theology, co-equal is the most applicable description there, but each person has their area of specialty in a manner of speaking. That's good, ignoble. That's right. Co-equal, co-eternal, and consubstantial, right? And then you have what's called the economic trinity, and the economic trinity is about understanding the Trinity based on what ignoble says, which is their specialty, right? So so economically speaking, the Father's the grand designer, he's the grand planner, right? And then Jesus is the executor of the plan, and then the Holy Spirit is the applier of the plan, right? And so all three members of the Trinity, um, they're so obsessed with bringing God to us that each of them, like, they have to have a role, and they they have to have it because they love us that much and they want to be involved. It's incredible. It's a crazy story, man. It's a crazy story, and nobody else could have made it up. It's amazing. God operating in mode. You know me, Vin. Pain is always manifested in me as anger, and lately I'm angry. Yeah, man. I think that's why you and I always been like kindred spirits in that regard, You convert the pain of losing your mother and losing the people that you lost into anger. It's a much more masculine emotion. I understand. Well, it may be modalism if he means it in a modalistic sense, right? So not everybody's a theologian, Mr. Naturalist. Um, but yeah, man, I know how you feel for sure, Dan. Trinity can't be co-equal. It doesn't work biblically. Jesus clearly is subordinate to the Father in Scripture. So wives are told to submit to their husbands, right? Or men are told to submit to the government, right? In Romans 13, let everybody submit to the governing authorities. Does that mean then that the Bible is telling me that as a human being, not my role, right? As a human being, I am less human than the president because the Bible tells me to submit to governing authority? I don't think that that works because one has to do with my ontology. What am I? And the other has to do with my role in a given society. What position do I play? It's the same thing with Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson. Is Michael Jordan less of a basketball player because he submits to the authority of Phil Jackson? I don't think anybody would say that. So the fact that the son submits to the father says nothing about whether or not he is co-equal and co-eternal with the father relative to his ontology, relative to his nature, what he is, right? So if the Bible has both, that Jesus is equal. We see this in Philippians 2 expressed beautifully, where Paul says, your mind should be that of Christ, who being in very nature God, and the term for nature is morphe, right? And if you're a good Platonist, you know that morphe means the externalized version of the inward reality of something. So Paul is saying that Jesus is in the very morphe, he is in the very nature of God. So he says, your attitude should be like Christ, who being in very nature God did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, right? Something to be held on to. But instead, he emptied himself and made himself a servant, right? So Paul is praising Jesus because even though he was equal to God, even though he was in the morphe, the nature, the form of God himself, he didn't consider that equality something he needed to hold on to, but he emptied himself and he made himself a servant. Okay. That is what happened. Fair enough. That's a good response. I hadn't considered that. Right. So that's what happened. Emptied himself of what? Well, he emptied himself of the independent use of his divine prerogative. He submitted that to the will of the Father. So it says, he emptied himself, making himself a servant, and submitted to even death on a cross. And then Paul says, therefore, God has exalted him and given him a name above every name, that at the name of Jesus, every knee will bow, every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. So we have the entire thing there. The Father and the Son are not in competition with each other. As a matter of fact, they're in competition as to how they can get glory for the other one. Because what it does is it says that Jesus, in the morphe of God, he submits to God, right? And then it says God exalted him and gave him a name that's above every name, which means that they're tied for first, right? Jesus has to be a divine being with a capital D because he has a name above every name. And we know that because Jesus told us the baptismal formula. He said, baptize them in the name, singular, of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, plural. They have one name. Okay. Name has to do with nature, essence, that type of thing. So Jesus is given the name above every name because he surrendered it in order to save us. And then once he did that, Jesus received it back and he was restored back to his position. That's why in his high priestly prayer in John chapter 17, it says, after Jesus said these things, he looked towards heaven and prayed. And he said, the Father, the time has come. Glorify your Son, that your Son may glorify you. So the Father and the Son are out for the glory of the other person. Right? So he's saying, Father, the time has come. Glorify your Son. And by the way, in the Gospel of John, Jesus' glorification is being crucified. Okay? So he's saying, get me crucified so I can bring you this glory. It's unbelievable. Jesus, his mindset was insane. The Trinity includes a time and a place for the primacy of each person. What is Jesus's real name? Jesus's real name is Yahweh. The term Jesus actually means Yahweh is salvation. And somebody was bringing up the economy or the different ways in which God functions or the different specialties. And so that Jesus wrote his specialty in the given name that he chose, right? So Yeshua means Yahweh is salvation. So that's what it means. But Yahweh is the name. So Yeshua is a combination of the term, the divine name of God and the concept of salvation, and he puts it together. It's really cool. And remember, guys, remember Yahweh in the Old Testament has a bunch of names, right? Uh, what's her name? Hagar calls him the God who sees me. In Jeremiah, he's called Yahweh Siktendu. So God picks up all these names in the Bible. His proper name is Yahweh, but he picks up all these different names in the Bible as people start interacting with him. And free naturalist actually is another one. That's actually a good point because it's prophesied that his name would be Emmanuel, right? And Emmanuel means God with us. Well, he wasn't literally named Emmanuel, but it was more in the literal sense because name in the Old Testament economy has to do with your nature. So, for example, there's they're talking about Jesus in the Old Testament in Exodus 23. And so God tells to the people of Israel, look, I'm sending my angel before you, okay? And then he says, you need to listen to him because he won't forgive your rebellion because my name is in him, meaning he shares my nature. And that's why Jesus said in John 17, he says, and now, Father, keep them in the name that you gave me because you loved me before the world began. So Jesus carries the name, essence, nature of Yahweh in his own being. I swear, bro, when you were explaining stuff like that, you just remind me of my dad. You always get a fascinating, detailed answer. Sometimes with textbooks, the pictures. Love you, bro. Dude, I miss the hell out of you, man. I miss the hell out of you. We need to stay together, especially considering all the craziness. We all need each other right now. You know what I'm saying? Multiple names with the same meaning. What was the name Mary and Joseph? The name Mary and Joseph gave them was Yeshua or Yehoshua, whatever. It's Yeshua. Yah or Yahweh, Chua, Chuhoa is salvation or bring salvation. So his name is Yeshua. Good question. Yeah, so I've been working on a whole bunch of things like around those topics. So it's cool. It's cool to talk about it. I haven't published them yet because they're just way too long. One article was 20,000 words, which is like basically a half of a book. So I I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but just working on it with Sori and stuff like that. It's pretty fun. But yeah, Dan, look, man, all I'd say to you is you get some time, you talk to the big guy, you know he's there. Just tell him this is where I'm at. I'm not very good at repenting either. I got this and this and this thing that I know ain't right, but you're saying it's not right. I can't stop it, but if you'll help me stop it, then I'll stop. I'm not promising you nothing. I mean, you just got to have those conversations, just like you would a normal person, right? You'd say, look, I'm not promising you anything. I believe in what you're doing. I can't really live up to how you're supposed to. I do believe you. I would follow you. That's enough for him. You know, damn, when the guy was up there getting crucified next to him, people talk about the good thief. There was no good thief. Both of them thieves were mocking Jesus, bro. Both of them were mocking him, it says. And then for some reason, one of them has a heart change. And he looks at Jesus and he says, listen, just remember me when you come into your kingdom. I don't know if you guys understand this, but in crucifixion, you die by suffocation. And the torture of crucifixion is that you have to push up against the nails and the in your feet and your legs in order to prop yourself up in order to breathe. So breathing came at speaking came at an extreme economy, right? So this guy looks at Jesus breathlessly and says, "Just remember me, man." He knew it was too late for him, right? He knew he's dying. He knew he was wrong. He knew he was dying in his sin, but he knew that the dude next to him was a righteous dude. So he looks at Jesus and says, "Just remember me, man." He didn't even say, "I'm sorry." Jesus said, "Remember you." He said, "This day, you're going to be with me in paradise. Remember you. We're going on together, bro. I came here to get you." And that dude, bro, that man went from, "I'm going to hell and I deserve it," to, "I'm going to be in paradise in a couple hours." What? That's all he needed. Just remember me. So just tell Jesus to remember you, Dan. That's it. That's all. And you're in. And then let him walk with you. And he's going to change you. And you're not going to be the same in 6 months or a year. You're going to be different. And it's going to be slow and it's going to be subtle. But that's how it goes. But you ain't got to be a perfect believer, a perfect repenter, a perfect whatever. You just got to be Dan and you got to be real. That's it. As long as you're real with me, that's what he says. As long as you're real and you'll listen, we're good. We're good. All right, guys. That's a big ass soda. True. What's up, free naturalists? I'm just a dumb Australian who rides a kangaroo to work. Oh shit, that's funny. That's actually funny. You should preach in the streets. You're highly motivated and intellectual about the Lord. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, Derek. I ain't no preacher though. I'm not a good public speaker. Oh man. All right, guys. I was here for 4 hours, it looks like. Thank you guys for hanging out. I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna take a nap and then I'm coming right back. We're streaming again. It's gonna be some music. Music. I don't know which alliance is which. I think Archero's supposed to jump up and do some stuff. I need to hear that. God bless you. God bless you. Don't worry about it, man. I'm sure, or a woman, I'm gonna need something from you at some point here. This is what we do. Dan's done that for me a lot. Free naturalist, where do I know you from? Did you text me with a different number? I did text you with a different number. That was me. And you never text me back. It's been ages since we talked properly. It's been good to see you again, though, mate. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It reminded me of the old times with you, Ian. God, those are my favorite. I enjoy these streams so much. Oh, good. Good, good, good. Good. Good to see you, Lonnie. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm gonna take a nap, I think. And then I'll be right back at it. We're gonna listen to some music, some metal. I think after we do the music streams, maybe we just keep talking to each other. You know what I'm saying? After the music stream. I don't know. We'll see tonight. You did? She good? Just tell me she's good. The fireside chats were always my favorite. Well, this was basically a fireside, wasn't it? Wasn't this a fireside? I think it was a fireside. You guys want more firesides? This was a fireside. Fireside, we just come, we just talk, whatever, whatever, whatever. You guys good with those? You guys like those? You want more or less? More or less firesides? 22 for more firesides, 55 for less firesides. What? Give her my number immediately. Dane, give her my number immediately, please. Oh yeah. Yeah, she says what's up to everybody, by the way. Um, yeah, give her my number. Yeah, that's it. You got it. Thank you. All right, guys. More firesides then. You guys have spoken. Okay, so tonight you should expect a 4-song stream. I think we're gonna do an alliance stream, and then after that, I'll cut that, and then we'll do another fireside. We can hang out, and then we'll talk about anything and everything you guys want to talk about. How's that? How's that, guys? We'll do the songs, and then we will do the fireside. 22 for more 22. Yeah. Hey, Ignoble Savage, you had some really good contributions that helped me out in this thing. People ask me questions. That was a big it's a big job because I want to be accurate. So dead ass. I don't know who you are per se, but thank you for the help. It helped me keep within the rails and answering the questions well. Just found you with things I need to start today. Yeah, subscribe. I'm gonna be back later tonight. We do music reactions. Then after the music reaction, we're gonna do this again. It's called the fireside, and it's just straight up. We'll just hang out with each other and talk. There's no agenda, which means we can talk about anything, as long as everybody's like respectful and shit. But yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's try to do it every day this week. Let's see. Right. All right, guys. Having said that, let me try to get some rest, and I'll be right back again later on today, and I'll keep doing. Well, since I'm back, we'll keep doing it. Right. All right, guys. What do I always say? What do I always say? I always tell you to love your neighbor, take care of each other, all that good stuff. Yeah, Jack, I'm glad. I'm glad for the props. I mean, we did 4 hours here, guys. So that kind of flew by. It's like one of them old school joints, right? All right, good. So, Maida, make sure that you get Tina my number. Thank you. And watch for I'm gonna send you my new number in the email reply. So watch for it, okay? Oh man, I feel so bad. Hey Dwayne, good to see you, baby. Hey Dwayne, I've been on for 4 hours. I was just saying goodbye to everybody, but we're coming right back. It's weird. I'm about to make a lunch as soon as Vince go to bed. Yeah, dude, Dwayne, I'll be back. We're gonna watch your movie, by the way, Dwayne. It should be out, right? So we're gonna watch the movie. All right. Much love, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dwayne. I'm sorry. You know what? I should probably do these at like this hour of the night though, because then I get all my UK people. I got Ian. I got Harhamihi. I'm completely butchering your name. I had dinner a lot long ago. Yeah, I'll probably eat some. I mean, it's 7 in the morning where I'm at right now, so you guys take care of each other until we jump on again tonight. I'm pretty sure it's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to do some music. We're going to rock out, and then we're just going to do this. We're just going to hang out. No agenda, no nothing. Let's talk. See what everybody wants to talk about. We can talk about anything you guys want. So, what did we talk about today? We talked about Iran. We talked about everything. So, it's cool. It's going to be fun. It's the Finnish. Oh, you're from Finland. One of my best friends on the channel is from Finland. Hey, Dwayne. Um, somebody get with Kai. Let Kai know I'm back. Well, he'll probably know once he sees this. I need your new number. Check your send me another email. I'll give it to you immediately. Seriously, send it to me. Send me an email, vincestory@gmail.com. Shout out to Kai. Let Kai know I'm back. And much love to all you beautiful people. I'm out of here. Love your neighbor. Do something good for somebody, y'all. Pay for somebody's coffee, something. Do something. Smile. Even a smile is charity.